they can't tell you their names. They can't tell you where they live, but in the mid to late 90s, these 5 teenagers can turn into animals to fight an invading army of evil brain slugs. 5 dumb teens are the only thing standing in the way of complete annihilation. This is Animorphing Time with Nate and Tyler.
Get your hand off my girlfriend, you yerk-brained bastard!
This is for Daddy. Make it like half the bottle.
Catherine Alice Applegate wouldn't want this. Doesn't want this.
He gets really, really aroused every time he kills someone with his scorpion tail.
Oh man, being 12 was weird.
Well, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
We're not.
Yeah, well, welcome to Animorphin Time
Yeah.
with Nate and Tyler.
Yeah, welcome to Animorphing Time.
The person who says it actually gets their name first. The introduction.
I've always said your name first, and I've always introduced us.
I'm number one.
I'm just a better friend. But yes, this is Animorphin Time with
Right.
Nate and Tyler. That's Nate.
Yeah.
I'm Tyler.
This is the third book in the Animorphin series.
Yeah.
The Animorph series.
Yeah, we're here to talk to you about book number 3, The Encounter. Our teenagers, in quotes, are taking on alien brain slugs, and this is the story.
Can I point out that the name The Encounter has nothing to do with what's going on with this book?
I think you're wrong.
You're wrong.
Because I think we'll get it. I think the encounter has to do with the other hawk.
Oh!
I don't think it has to do with the aliens.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go right off the bat. This is my favorite book.
Yeah, this was...
that I've read this year, I think.
It was a very good book. For a book written for children, surprisingly good. Let's just recap. A group of 5 teenagers. Oh, we're getting our silver bullets ready.
It's not a silver bullet.
Well, I mean, it's a can and it's silver. So today we're drinking Cala Creamin Vanilla Cream Ale Creamsicle from Mother Earth Brewing Company.
I'm uncomfortable by the amount of cream in this. Now, I've had this yesterday because we got a little toasted. Yesterday.
We got toasted. I got...
By that mean drinking, not smoking.
Yeah, I got a tattoo and we got toasted.
You got two tattoos.
I got 2 tattoos and toasted. But yeah, we don't smoke. We don't do pot. If you do pot, you're going to die.
Smokers are jokers. Winners don't do drugs.
No.
Tobias hates drugs.
Tobias hates drugs.
Tobias is a winner.
But Tobias is a winner. So, oh yeah, let's get that.
Clean that for the mic.
Can pop. Can check. Can pop. There we go. So we've got a group of teenagers trying to stop an alien invasion of brain slugs from taking over the planet, and they can turn into animals. That's this story.
Right, and the introduction is super quick. Like for the last 2 books, they had this kind of long over introduction of we're fighting a secret war against the Yerks.
Yeah, and the other books were kind of bland.
Yeah.
Second better than the first. This one out of the gate opens strongly. The very first paragraph is wonderful. And that is, my name is Tobias, a freak of nature, one of a kind. So it starts strong.
Yeah.
You know this kid is Tobias. He sees himself as a freak of nature. And he goes on to describe himself. He says he thinks he's a normal kid, or that he used to be. He did okay in school, not great. He says he was big, but not too big. So he's just kind of in the middle of everything.
Yeah, which, right off the bat, no person describes himself as, I'm normal, I'm average, I'm boring.
Right.
He's already down on himself.
Yeah, he's describing himself in terms that are just... He's like, yeah, I'm adequate. I'm a normal person. But he doesn't describe himself in any way that's meaningful or even descriptive. It's like, I am good. I am normal. So he doesn't see himself as anything.
Yeah. Well, he calls himself a dork.
He does call himself a dork.
He's big, he gets picked on, right? He goes into a little bit of the bullying stuff. Which,
right.
Was present, but never really got explored.
No, just enough to know that he was bullied. And in the first book, Jake says, I stopped people from bullying Tobias. Now this weirdo follows me around. Right. Even the other characters refer to him as kind of weird.
Right.
But he is like, no, I'm normal, I guess.
Yeah, he hasn't exhibited any weird behavior. Aside from
what happens in this book.
Right, aside from him being a forever bird.
Yeah, and we get a look into Tobias's head. Every book is first person, but this one is the only one where there seems like a real person in there.
Right. So, let's talk about...
We should also mention that in the past book, Tobias is stuck as a bird forever.
Yeah, that's why I call him Forever Bird. I also call him my sweet Forever Boy.
He's the world's saddest bird boy.
Yeah.
And we love him. We love him. We love to see him flying. We love every "Seer."
So this one doesn't start out with the group.
No, it's just Tobias and Rachel. They're flying above a used car lot.
Right.
They're on a mission. Mm-hmm. They're doing some stuff that they should not be doing. They are at Deal and Dan Hawks used cars.
Deal and Dan Hawks used cars.
Deal and Dan Hawks. And here comes Tobias, a red-tailed hawk boy.
So his name is Dan Hawk.
Dan Hawk, yeah.
Deal and Dan Hawks. Used car sales.
Yes, and this car sale person, Deal and Dan as we'll call him,
okay,
kept a red-tailed hawk in a cage.
Yeah. No, and like, I think this is the first like non-Yerk related activity. Well, aside from like the thing from last book where Rachel scared off the creepy rapers.
Yeah.
By turning into a half elephant creature, which was great.
Right.
But this is like the first time like they've kind of gone on the way for like a little bit of social justice.
Yeah. They go for it.
Yeah. So Deal and Dan Hawk has a hawk.
Deal and Dan has a hawk. Deal and Dan Hawks his hawk.
Has a hawk to kind of like, you know, show off his things. It's his inflatable...
It's his mascot, yeah.
It's his inflatable tube man.
Yes, it is that.
Right. A red-tailed hawk called Price Cut Polly.
Yeah, it's Price Cut Polly, and he keeps her in a cage.
Yeah. So Price Cut Polly, a great name for a hawk.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's probably the most interesting name for a hawk.
You just drink it down.
It's very good. It's creamy and creamsickly.
Yeah, no, it feels like I'm drinking a dessert beer.
So they're flying around.
So okay, but like, did they have a plan? Because
they kind of fill us in on the plan as they're doing it.
I thought they, you know, pun intended, they're winging it, right? They're just like because we don't go in the conversation that they had beforehand with like Rachel and Tobias talking about like, hey, there's this bird, we got to go rescue him.
Yeah, this starts in median res.
Right.
Ready.
Fancy word, lad.
Yeah, I learned it from you, Mr. English degree. Mm-hmm. We're very smart.
We're very smart, everybody.
So the plan is,
yes,
Tobias is going to swoop down, unlock the cage because he used his super bird eyes to read the code for the lock, while Rachel stomps around as an elephant smashing cars.
You know, I feel like you're jumping to elephant smashing too quick. They have a commercial, right?
Yes.
They're shooting this commercial.
Deal and Dan is doing a televised live commercial, which is a thing that happened, I guess.
Listen, I don't remember it. But like, I've seen movies that have had it.
Yeah, like Dirty Work.
Dirty Work had a live commercial.
Oh my god, all these cars are full of dead prostitutes.
Exactly. This is the dead prostitute version.
This is...
But with animals.
With Price Cut Polly.
Yeah. Tobias swoops down, scares everybody by letting out the thing that he does every time he swoops down. A nice seer! Spelled in the book Tseeer.
Yeah, he does that all the time, and it sounds like this.
I'll edit in the actual sound.
I know, I'm gonna get it. God, I should have just saved it. There it is. It goes a little something like this.
It's so bad. So bad. This is the worst. It's the worst thing we've done.
We should have prepared. Oh boy, but yeah,
you had to go get 2 tattoos.
I had to. He seer.
Right. Well, yeah, so Tobias essentially is invading this commercial. Mm-hmm. He goes for the eyes, but he doesn't like want to hurt Deal and Dan or the camera crew, really. He just wants to scare him off. But eventually, like, you know, Deal and Dan kind of gets the upper hand and kind of takes a couple pop shots at Tobias in the bird form.
Yeah, he sends his goons to like, hey, go get rid of that bird.
Well, I mean, goons as in like camera crew.
Yeah, like employees.
Right. He's not like a mob boss.
I'm assuming someone named Deal and Dan has goons. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, so Tobias fights back, but like he's holding back because Tobias is a nice lad.
Yeah.
Right. Deal and Dan's still trying to do like the commercial, right? Mm-hmm. And Tobias, is feeling himself a little bit.
He's like, this is great. Then Rachel starts stomping around on cars.
Yeah.
And Tobias immediately watches Price Cut Polly fly off.
Right. So,
and he's like, oh man, what is it about this girl bird?
Yeah. Okay. So this is like really where he's kind of falling in love, right?
Yeah. He's like, I had freed her. That kind of concept was beyond her thinking, and she felt no gratitude. But she flapped her wings and rose into the air, free.
Yeah.
And after that, he perseverates on her through the entire book, just thinking, I need to go to her. I need to go to her.
Right. So is this like a mild allegory for like teenage raging hormones?
That and probably unrequited love and unreciprocated love.
Right. Like, I think he wants to have like a nice chat with the bird.
Yeah.
But he acknowledges that, wait, no, there's no gratitude here. It is a bird.
Yeah, it's a bird.
Like, I know the bird brain. I have that bird brain in my head.
And it's the two worlds of Tobias. There's his bird brain saying, hey, go fuck this bird.
Yeah.
And the human brain saying, like, I can't fuck a bird. I'm a boy. Oh, but I kind of am in love with Rachel.
Right. Like, Rachel stomping around in the background is actually... like, this whole chapter is a really good introduction, I think. It starts out with, like, a whole bunch of action. We have Dylan Dan and Price Cut Polly and other interesting things going on.
And it's not full of exposition like all the other beginnings of her book. The exposition we need gets explained in the moment.
Right.
When it happens. That's just the first chapter. They free a hawk.
Right.
Rachel smashes some cars as an elephant.
Right, and I think...
all on live TV.
Yeah. This is also the best use of, like, first-person perspective. Like, I don't know if all of the Animorph books go for the first-person perspective thing.
They do.
But I think this one worked well because even in the description of the Lady Hawk, it feels weird calling her Price Cut Polly.
Why?
Because,
What are you going to call her? Michelle Pfeiffer?
Yeah.
Was that Lady Hawk?
I don't know. I don't remember. I didn't actually see Lady Hawk.
Hey, write us in. Let us know who Lady Hawk is.
Yeah, who's Lady Hawk? Anywho, yeah, so... But, like, even the description of Lady Hawk is one from, like, oh, I'm attracted to this bird, right? Out she came in a rush of gray and brown and white feathers, right? It's very...
He spends equal time respecting her and lusting after her, right?
Yeah. Right.
And right after that bit, and then I had the strangest feeling, like I should go with her, like I should be with her. Can we get out of here now? Rachel asked. She was bellowing loudly, tossing her big trunk around and stomping various cars, having a very good time by elephant standards.
Solid.
But it was time for us to leave, for Rachel to resume her human form. I looked up again. I saw the sunlight shine through the hawk's red tail. She flew towards the setting sun.
Yeah.
For a kid's book, that's longing and wistful.
Right. It gets the emotion across without being overly verbose.
Yes. Absolutely.
I think that, she doesn't belabor the point that Tobias is, attracted to this bird, but, like, it gets established quickly and tersely, and it's great.
It's mysterious, it's longing, it's alluring.
Sure.
It's anything we want in a crush.
Okay. So, Chapter 2, they're now in the aftermath of...
Yeah.
So, I guess...
kind of debriefing.
Yeah.
They're like, well, everyone's going to be pissed at us.
Which is great, because I think that shows that, like, Rachel and Tobias are the most, like, animated characters.
They're animated, and they have a bond that the other characters don't.
Right. The other characters sound kind of like squares.
Yeah, Marco's whole thing is, I'm sarcastic at everything.
No, his whole thing is, I don't want to die. This sucks. Please stop doing things like this.
There's that. Cassie and Jake have a flirtation, but every time it gets mentioned, it's like, oh, they held hands, and then realized they were holding hands and stopped.
Yeah, we haven't really gotten into that in the books we've read, but like
they hint on, like they've made.
Hey, you know what? Boring people like boring people. I'll say it right now.
Boring people, yeah.
So Rachel and Tobias,
duds be duddin'.
Interesting people. They should get together, but I think that tension works better in this book because right now they're just friends.
Right.
They're just having a good time and supporting each other.
Right. And it's like in the other books they kind of hinted at like last book, Tobias definitely looked out for Rachel and was there for her and would talk to her more. And in the first book, there was that bit where Tobias was a bird and she kind of rubbed her head on him.
Yeah.
So they've been hinting towards a connection between those two.
Which this kid's gonna make it?
Well, I don't. To me, it just felt kind of weird because she's like the hot, popular girl, and he's like this weird dud.
Yeah, well, no, he thinks of himself as a weird dud. Like, I don't think he actually is one. No. But, like, since he was down on himself, he probably, like, you know, shithead kids probably tuned into that. It's like, hey, you know, even though he describes himself as big, too. So I always kind of pictured him as, like, an imposing dude in human form.
Or, like, overweight and schlubby is kind of how I saw him.
I mean, he talks about, like, eating Pringles. And, like, there's some good stuff later on in the book where he's just, like, a hawk trying to eat mashed potatoes. But, like, we'll get into that. Yeah, so anyways, like, they escape the situation. I think that's just about it. They really just kind of run away from it.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, we're just running away. And there was one, Rachel turning back into human, where he's describing her as her tusks were the size of children, and they slooped back into her face. That was, I definitely highlighted the word sloop.
It's weird, like, during the transformation, he's kind of like, you know, keeping an eye out, which is a bit pervy.
It's a bit pervy, but, I mean...
So, to quote, she was small enough now that she could stand on her hind legs. As she did, her front legs grew smooth and human. Her back legs lost their clunkishness and became her own long, coltish legs.
Yeah, I don't know if I would describe my crush's legs as coltish.
Yeah, not like colt, like C-L-U-T, but colt as in, like, a horse?
Yeah. Damn, girl, you thoroughbred. Ugh.
I'll let you drag my wagon.
Oh, girl, you got me making glue over here. God damn it.
Oh.
But yes, he's watching her morph.
I'll look that gift horse in the mouth.
Her morphing clothes, a skin... God damn it. The gift horse in the mouth. It's like, damn, gift horse, how that mouth do? Alright, her morphing clothes, a skin-tight black leotard emerged. The tusks slooped back into her mouth and divided into sparkling teeth. She was a very pretty girl, beautiful even, except that she still had a 2-foot-long gray nose. I'm picturing, like, this blonde bombshell with an elephant nose.
All Yerks are cops.
All Yerks are cops.
Wait, no, all cops are Yerks.
They're both. I mean, it's kind of interchangeable.
Speaking of which, they're concerned about the cops.
They are. They're like, we hope the cops are coming. The real cops, not the Yerk cops. So it's like, wow, they're praying for cops. Must be nice living in the 90s. I mean, cops probably killed the same amount of unarmed black people, just we didn't have to watch it on Twitter.
Yeah, wasn't there like a whole riot about that in the 90s?
Yeah, there was.
Anywho, let's talk about Animorphs.
Yeah.
So anyways, they're worried that they're going to get chewed out by the other Animorphs, and they do, right?
Yeah. But Tobias kind of catches us up on the plot. It's like, hey, we're being chased by brain aliens.
Right.
They're led by this evil guy who can also morph.
Visser 3,
the best character.
Right.
And then he kind of describes his own lack of, I don't know, will to live. It's like he's willing to fight because he doesn't have that much to lose.
Well, yeah.
He kind of outright says that.
All of these initial books, except for the first one, feel like they're talking about the motivations of fighting the Yerks, right? Like, why are you fighting the Yerks? The last book was about Rachel wanting to protect her friend and wanting to protect the children of the world because, hey, their parents are going to be all Yerked.
Yeah. And the first book was Jake saying, I want to save my brother. My brother's been taken by them.
Jake sucks.
Just outright sucks.
Right, and so this book is, investigating Tobias's reason for fighting the Yerks. Yeah. I mean, he's on board initially, but I think it's because he's like, oh, it's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do.
But now that he's dealing with the reality of what that is, like the harsh reality, now that he's a bird forever.
Yeah.
Like he kind of like is getting this like, yeah, humans suck.
Yeah, and he's like, am I even human anymore? Do I have to fight this war?
Right.
Which I think is an interesting idea.
Right. So, like, when they kind of go, like, they separate, right? Because Rachel has to take the bus. Because, she's hit her 2-hour time limit.
Yeah.
So she takes the bus home, and Tobias kind of flies out and just is a bird in a field. And he's out there looking at the shrews. Let's see. And thinking about the other bird and kind of what she's doing.
Let's talk about Tobias's motivation, because I like this right here.
Yeah.
Tobias says, "But I was glad to fight the Yeerks. Maybe I just had less to lose than the others. Or maybe something about the lonely, defeated, yet courageous Andalite prince touched me so deeply that I could never regret fighting to settle the score."
Right. So we should also go back and remind people that he had a connection with the Andalite prince, who was the first. So, like, when they discovered the crash landing, out comes this Andalite prince who's about to die, and he gives him the glowy cube that turns them all into Animorphs. But Tobias hangs around a little bit longer, and he is getting this Vulcan mind meld,
which
from the Andalite prince, and I have a feeling is probably going to come back a lot. But long story short, he gets the most information about the alien situation,
and he bonds with this alien because the Andalites can make other people feel their feelings or just feel things.
Right.
And I think it was one of the first times Tobias ever felt cared for and loved, or like someone needed him.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
A little bit. Like, it didn't go into detail in the first book at all. Like, but it said, like, there was an emotional connection and he was very moved.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, you could totally read into that way. Like, of just, like, him getting the rush of... Well, yeah, they do go into that in the first book. Like, he got a rush of emotions from the Andalite prince and saw that he had a family. And, like, he had that deeper connection with somebody that he might not have had.
Oh, he definitely doesn't have that at home.
Right.
Tobias's home life has been described as living between his aunts and his uncles, and they just don't really care about him.
Right. We know that... Well, he spells out the history, right? Because, like, there's a missing kid now. Like, Tobias just isn't able to be a human. He can't carry on his normal human life. So, his parents are dead?
I think so. I think they mentioned that the parents... Well, I think they said the parents are gone.
Yeah.
Gone or dead.
Well, yeah, they're gone for whatever reason.
Ostensibly, they're dead.
Yeah.
But who knows?
They could be in prison.
These dumbass books, they could come back.
Right. So he was casually adopted by his aunt and uncle.
Yeah, who are not together.
Right, who are separated now, I guess.
On different parts of the country.
Right, and so they share custody, which is also kind of strange. Normally,
Right.
But anyways, yeah, so they're in separate parts of, not the country.
But, like, different...
The area.
They're far enough away that one doesn't check on the other.
Right, and I assume they hate each other, so, like, it is just kind of like, I'm staying with Uncle... Joey Jojo.
Right.
They don't even have names.
No.
He's used to this kind of shuffling around, so it was pretty easy for him just to kind of disappear. So, but I guess we'll get into that when we describe his home situation a bit more.
We can do that.
Because, like, now he's just going to get chewed out.
Yeah, he's just flying around. He's like, I wonder what that bird's up to.
Right.
I wonder if I should eat this rat.
There's a lot of rat thoughts coming up.
He's...
Yeah, so, I mean, like, they regroup.
They regroup, and they get chewed out. So, chapter 3 comes around. Marco's pissed off. And this is the one where we find out Tobias is living in Jake's attic. Like, up until this point, I thought Tobias built a nest or is off living somewhere.
Well, that's what I initially thought, like, during the previous book, was that, like, Tobias was just off being a bird.
Yeah.
Because it's been, like, how many weeks?
It's been a few weeks, yeah.
Yeah, it's been, like, 2 or 3 weeks, right? So, I'm like, he's had to have eaten something by this point, right?
But we were wrong.
And, like, I just assumed he lived in the nest, like, in the woods somewhere. But no, he lives in Jake's attic.
Yeah, he lives in a drawer in Jake's attic.
Right. And I just got these images of, like, a bird watching TV and, like, a bird just kind of putzing around an apartment just being bored because, like, yeah, it's still, like, a human brain in there.
Yeah, and Marco kind of always mocks Tobias.
Right. Well, Marco, like, is the jokester, so he tries to, like, mock everybody. But I think with Tobias, there's just, like, a lot of material to work with.
There is.
And I think he gets a certain amount of joy of doing it, specifically to Tobias.
Yeah, and they're talking, they're at the end of their little thing, and Cassie says, I have to get going. I have horses to feed and bird cages to clean. Don't say the word cage around Tobias, Marco said. He'll do some guerrilla commando ninjas SWAT team Hawk from Hell attack on the center, and he'll talk Rachel into stomping your house flat. Everyone laughed because we all knew why Cassie had bird cages. I mean, everyone's laughing at a joke at Tobias' expense.
Right.
They're laughing at how he's a bird, 1.
Right.
2, unstable. And 3, how he can convince Rachel to do what he wants.
Right. Well, and also they're just not on board with the animal rights thing.
No.
Yes, right? Like, I think that part's kind of interesting, is that, like, they didn't see the value of saving a caged bird.
Right.
Really. Right, you know. Whereas Tobias totally did.
Yeah, he's like, ooh, this is the right thing to do because my bird dick wants it.
No, he's not talking about his bird dick.
I know.
He's thinking, like, hey, I'm a bird. There's a trapped bird. It's no different than saving a trapped human.
Yeah, because,
right? I mean, you know, like, it's like, oh, this person is captured. I should release, you know, and so.
And then, so they're all laughing. They're like, oh, we got to go home. We got to go do some stuff. Hey, Tobias, you going to come home? And Tobias is like, nah, not right now. And he's like, Tobias says, well, he thinks, I saw the way the others kind of looked away when Jake mentioned the attic. That's the attic where he lives.
Yeah.
They feel sorry for me. How do you think that about your closest friends? You just assume they all feel sorry for you. I mean, I've felt it too, but I'm also a very depressed person.
Right. None of the Animorphs have processed that, you know, they kind of lost somebody in that way.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't really acknowledged kind of Tobias' situation completely, except for Rachel, I think.
Yeah.
They're all, like, jokey about it, but then they're able to go back to live their normal lives, whereas
Mm-hmm.
Tobias just kind of has to, like, be a bird and think about doing bird things, or, like, trying to do human things as a bird.
So, Tobias says, I flew out through the window into the night. Rachel's sad eyes seemed to follow me. I hated the way they all felt sorry for me. All they could see was that I was not what I used to be. All they saw was that I had no home. But they didn't really understand. I hadn't had a real home since my parents died. I was used to being alone. It's like, damn.
Well, yeah, so the parents are dead.
The parents are dead. This kid feels like he has no home. He's isolated.
And now he's even more isolated.
Yeah.
At least he really liked being a bird.
He did.
Right? Like, when he was initially kind of flying around as a bird, he's like, this is the happiest I've ever been.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, in this chapter, which we kind of glossed over, he saw a ripple in the sky he didn't quite understand.
Sure.
When he was flying from Price Cut Polly, dealing Dan's, to meet with the other Animorphs.
Yeah.
He saw a ripple in the sky. He's like, oh, what the fuck is that?
Yep.
Well, I'll worry about it later. Thinking about this bird going to meet my friends who all hate me. Well, he goes back to where he saw this thing in the sky.
Right.
Because he's like, all right, let's figure out what this is. It's something that made him feel bad. It's like, Tobias' intuition was like, something's not right. There are aliens here. Let's see if I can find this thing again.
There's also some really good lines in here of, like, Tobias talking, like, bird shop.
Yeah.
Which I think are really cool. Like, he's like, hawks aren't quite as good at soaring as eagles or some buzzards are. Man, you should see the way turkey buzzards can work those thermals. Awesome. He has a clear and distinct passion now for bird things.
Yeah.
Right? But he is getting the urge to hunt. And not just for hunger either. I think he wants the joy of it too, right?
Yeah.
So he goes into...
He talks about... He says, I didn't eat like a hawk. I ate food that Jake gave me. I didn't hunt, although sometimes the urge to hunt was pretty strong. I hadn't done that yet. I was afraid if I did it once, I'd never be able to stop.
Right. Which I think is true. I honestly, like, a lot of my notes on, like, these chapters where he's like, I can't eat, I'm too afraid of what I'll lose. I'm just like, eat, be a bird, that's fine.
Yeah.
I want him to eat. He's a growing boy.
And we learn that Jake's been covering for him with his uncle. He left him a note saying, hey, I'm going to live with my aunt. Please don't look for me.
Right.
Love, Tobias.
And vice versa, right? So the aunt got, I'm living with my uncle.
Yeah, so now he thinks he's with the aunt.
Doesn't matter.
No one cares. No one's looking for this missing boy. And that is such an unspoken tragedy in this book that it just breaks my fucking heart.
It was so easy for him to disappear.
Yeah, it's like, this is a kid who did not matter to the world. And he knows it. He feels it, and he knows it, which is why listening to him talk shit on himself throughout this book, where he's like, I'm not good, I wasn't good at things, all my friends hate me, feel sorry for me. It's like, fuck, that hurts.
Yeah.
And if you read that as a kid who's felt those things, you're like, okay, other people feel like this.
I think like he found something in being a bird that he didn't find as a human, right?
Yeah.
I think he's finding things like, oh, I'm actually really good at ripping out eyeballs. Or like, I'm really good at hunting. And like, I have this like, you know, awesome skill at being, red-tailed hawk that I just didn't feel. Like, he didn't feel like a good human, but he feels like a good hawk.
Right. And, I mean, listen to what he says here. I missed school, even though I had constantly been picked on by bullies. I didn't really miss my home, though. See, when my parents died, there was no one who really wanted me. I ended up getting shunted back and forth between an uncle here and an aunt across the country. Neither of them really cared about me. I don't think they even missed me. I had arranged for Jake to leave a message with my uncle. We told him I had gone to stay with my aunt. Each of them, my uncle, my aunt, thought I was staying with the other. I had no idea how long that trick would hold up before one of them figured out it wasn't in either place. Guess when they realize it, they'll call the cops and report me as a runaway, or maybe they won't even bother. And reading this, it's easy to think it's hyperbole, because it's like, just depression shitting all over him. But he did it.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's 100% true. And, like, those are the only people that would notice, too, is the thing, too. Like, the school doesn't even seem to care.
No.
Right?
It's nobody misses this kid. It makes me think of Arrested Development. It's like, children should be neither seen nor heard. He's the bastard. He's a Milford man.
Yeah.
He flies back.
Right.
To where he saw the ripple in the sky.
Yeah, so we get into some more ripple talk. He knows that something is up, but he doesn't know exactly what.
Right, and he sees it again. Mm-hmm. And he sees some geese.
Right.
Like, oh. He talks about the geese flying, how they always fly in a certain pattern.
Right, and then he talks some more geese shop,
And then...
They don't move very fast.
No. And then something happens. Suddenly the lead goose folded like it had been hit by a truck. Its wings collapsed, but it did not fall. So it just slams into something, stuck to it in midair.
I can see that movie, right, where there's just like it close up into a flock of geese, and then they just suddenly like collapse into paper.
Yeah, just like crunched, just absolutely destroyed.
Right, and now there's just this pile of crippled geese sliding down this invisible object in the sky. Something's up in the sky. And I think he's kind of figured out what's going on. It's definitely Yerk related, because two other aliens are going to be flying around doing
He's
that.
like, okay, invisible evil ship, these are Yerks.
Right. So it doesn't take him that long to figure out the mystery. So now he calls a meeting of the Animorphs.
He's
just meeting up in Cassie's barn, talking about this invisible object in the sky. Right. And that brings up another possibility of different types of ships, right? Because before, we can go through the ships.
Yeah, there's the Bug Fighter.
Right, the Bug Fighter. Everyone calls it the Bug Fighter? That's his name, the Bug Fighter.
And the Blade Ship.
The coolest ship.
Yeah, it's an axe with sword wings.
Right.
Driven by Visser 3.
The man, right?
The man.
We know of a dumb Andalite ship that gets exploded.
I don't care about that.
Nobody cares about that. And now we have this like big, giant, invisible, floating ship.
Yeah, something that is just floating. I don't know what it is.
Right. But that's cool. Like, it's like, okay, it's a mother base. It's like this giant floating ship. They know it's large at this point. But they don't know quite exactly what it is and how to deal with it.
No. So Tobias kind of thinks, I feel like it was going one way. It's probably doing something up in the mountains. So I'm going to check that shit out. And the group has this discussion where it's like, Cassie has a crisis of conscience where she's like, what are we doing? We almost died twice. Why do we keep doing this? Can we even do anything about a giant invisible ship?
This is where I kind of became anti-Cassie a little bit. Because, it's like, I think she had that, like, why are we doing this moment because she wasn't doing anything else in the books.
Yeah.
I don't think Kay Applegate knows what to do with Cassie, really.
No, not at this point anyway.
Yeah, so it's like, she should have a crisis of faith. There we go.
Yeah, and then the crisis of faith it lasts 2 sentences. She's like, we barely got out alive. We infiltrated Chapman's house and Rachel was captured. We barely got out alive. And then in the next breath, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I can't just do nothing while people are enslaved by the Yeerks. Maybe it's just me. The thing is, I have these powers. She shrugged again. I can't just do nothing. And then Marco is Marco and says, we don't know any of these people. What do we care?
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you can't even see that eventually you'll just be one of them too.
Not in my backyard.
I got mine.
Yeah. Right, yeah, no, like, Marco has some strong fuck you got mine energy, and Cassie is just... I feel like she kind of just get, like, social guilt-sin into her, like, oh yeah, I guess, like, I better pick up this garbage that somebody left because it's the right thing to do. Not that she has any, like, well, she hasn't found her motivation yet,
no,
you know.
But
I'm sure she will soon.
Yeah, probably in the very next book, which is Cassie-centered.
Yeah.
But Rachel's the other one who's like, you know what? Fine, fuck you, Marco. You don't want to be Animorph? Fucking get out of our Animorph clubhouse. And he's
right.
Because she's like, she has a reason to fight.
Yeah, and honestly, like, having Marco hanging around is kind of like, oh, we shouldn't do this, guys, isn't helpful.
No,
and it'd just be better if he left.
He's the bummer guy.
Right.
He's always like, oh, do you guys want to die? You're all stupid for doing this. I'm going to do it too.
This is why Jake sucks as a leader, too, because that should have been Jake's position to say, like, if you're not a part of this, go.
Yeah.
But instead, he's friends with Jake, Marco, so, like, he's just giving him a pass, whereas Rachel's not having that.
Yeah, and the only Jake language they talk about is, like, well, he's the leader, but he doesn't really like to be a leader, so he just sits there, not making decisions, looking tortured.
He's a natural leader.
He's just a natural leader.
Pete 2020.
He was born to do this. Beto O'Rourke. Born to be in it.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, no, this is where Marco kind of pushes back against Rachel, too.
Yeah, and he's like, fuck you, bitch.
Well, no, like, he's like, you get off on the danger. That's why you went with Tobias to free that bird. That's why that wasn't about saving the world. That was about rescuing some stupid bird. Which, and, again, like, shows how much Marco doesn't care about anyone except for Marco.
Yeah, and he also doesn't care about Tobias, who is a stupid bird.
Well, yeah, and, like, you'd think they'd all have a bit more sympathy for animals at this point.
Right.
Of, like, oh, yeah, animals do feel pain.
Right, and, like, they have some sense of what it's like to be an animal, so they should know.
Right.
And that's when Tobias does probably the bravest thing he's ever done. He says, as of right now, as of today, only one of us has been hurt. Me. But I'm not going to give up. I'm not anyone's leader. But what I am going to do is go to the mountains tomorrow morning. What the rest of you do is your business. And it's like, that's the leader.
Yeah.
That's the leader. That's Tobias.
Well, you know, like, the more I think about it, the more I think Rachel is probably the leader. Mm-hmm. Tobias is a strong individualist, but he does so with a great... Like, he's the Raphael, I think. If we're actually, like, really breaking this down in Ninja Turtles terms.
Well, I mean, it was the 90s. We could also make them Power Rangers. And, I mean, this is called Animorphin time.
All right, fine.
So, Rachel's the Jason.
No.
Tobias is the Tommy. But after Tommy's not evil, he's, like, the good Green Ranger.
Sure,
he's everyone's favorite.
I was going to go that Tobias was Tommy. I would actually say that Rachel is... God, who's the Red Ranger?
The Red Ranger, Jason. That's what I said.
Oh, you said Jason.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, I guess this would just, you know... Oh, hold on. Yeah, Cassie's the Yellow Ranger.
Trini, yeah.
Yeah, Trini.
Marco's a putty.
No, Marco's not putty. No, who is Marco?
Goldar. No, he's not cool enough to be Goldar.
He's going to turn. I feel a heel turn coming from Marco. I think he's going to be a human collaborator. We'll see. We'll get there.
You've got some instincts.
Great. Okay.
Let me ask you this. Which one of these people do you think is going to get a Yeerk in their brain?
Marco, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to know what you thought.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We'll leave it there. Okay. So, at this point, like, they decide that they want to go up to the mountains to, like, check this out, right?
Mm-hmm. And Jake even says, Jake made a wry smile. You say you're not a leader, but I'll go with you. And it's like, Jake just rolled over and showed his belly to Tobias. Like, if we're talking, like, the last book, cats have to roll over and be submissive.
But he's the bigger man, though, because he's like, you can lead for a little bit.
Yeah, so you go ahead, little bird buddy.
You only have all the good ideas.
Have some mashed potato that I leave for you on a desk later.
God, what an idiot. Don't give up bird mashed potatoes. What's wrong with you?
Dumb fuck. Jake, you fucking suck.
All right. So anyways, they all turn into their bird form to kind of check out the mountains.
No. They realize it's going to take forever. They go, and they're like, we got to be wolves.
Why? Why don't they just fly?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Bird watchers. That's why they decided not to fly, because they're worried about...
Oh, yeah. They're like...
They're worried about bird watchers seeing, like, a group of
a
two ospreys, a peregrine falcon, a bald eagle, and a red-tailed hawk.
Just flying together, doing best friend stuff. Yeah.
And they'd be like, okay, yeah, that might be a bit suspicious.
Yeah, which... Honestly, that's well thought out, because our first thought was, why didn't they go as birds? And it's like, okay, yeah.
Just find a goose.
No, they're not very agile, and they can get crumpled.
Well, and also Tobias can't follow along, because he can only be a red-tailed hawk.
That's true.
And, a group of red-tailed hawks flying together with don't speed. Okay, so it makes sense that they're wolves.
Yeah, that's like, we can go in a pack, we'll go as wolves.
Right, so they go off, they find a wolf.
At Cassie's farm, because she's got wolves.
She has every single animal that they need.
Yeah.
So anyways, they acquire the wolf.
And there's that fear that if they turned into the wolf, that it might give them nightmares. They talk about how Rachel had her PTSD nightmare of turning into a shrew.
Right, she still has Like, I think that... I kind of hope that just continues throughout the entire book of her having a nightmare of eating maggots. Because, like, that it's a visceral, post-traumatic thing that happens to Rachel. And I think, they kind of cruise by it, but I want it to, like, crop up and really kind of mess with their life. I want all the characters to come out of this damaged.
Don't worry.
Cool.
So, there's a little discussion where Marco's like, how come I have to be a girl wolf?
Right, because Marcos sucks.
Yeah, he sucks. And it's like, dude, it's just you're going to turn into a fucking wolf. It doesn't matter what the sex is. Just, come on. But Jake's the alpha leader, which is fucking stupid.
And wrong, too. Like, wolves don't... Like, that whole idea of the alpha wolf got debunked by the person who coined the term alpha wolf.
Yeah.
It was just, like, the oldest wolf, I think.
Mm-hmm. Stupid. Just stupid.
Yeah. So anyways, they acquire wolves.
Yeah, and it's like there was a sickening crunch as her knees changed direction. Her legs shrank and thinned and grew fur. Suddenly she fell forward, no longer able to stand erect. It had taken about 2 minutes. Cassie was now a wolf. It's like, that's descriptive.
Like every time.
Every single one.
It's like, oh, I can feel my eyes bulging and bursting. And then my scrotal sac goes into my body.
I felt my awesome balls become feminine ovaries.
It's every time.
And I know people are going to give a shit saying, this isn't overtly sexual. Well, I read this line here. Suddenly she fell forward, no longer able to stand erect. She could have said no longer able to stand upright.
No, I mean, like, that's fine. Standing erect is fine. They have other things in here that we can point to. But, like, ultimately, it's just kind of, it's American Werewolf in London every time.
Every time.
It's even when Cassie, like, who's the best, who's the best at transforming, she's the one that figured out how to do clothes.
Yeah.
Which,
they still describe it as a sickening crunch as her joints broke.
Like, I kind of want to insert just, like, popping celery in the microphone right now and just, like, nasty, like, it's the fly every time.
Every single time.
And, like, is that why kids read the book? Is that why the books are popular? Is because they just, like, went deep into, like, no, we're going to show you every detail of changing into an animal.
I think it's that, and also it's kids fighting monsters.
Yeah, okay.
And, I mean, there is some learning about animals.
Yeah, like, that's the funny thing is that, like, partway through the depression bird scenes, they insert bird facts. Because I think, like, Catherine Alice Applegate, I think she's like, oh, I gotta sell this to a publisher. Here's some bird facts.
Yeah.
Did you know that red-tailed hawks,
I have a wingspan of 3.4 to 4.8 feet.
Yeah.
I want to kill myself by flying into this window. But most commonly, they eat shrews and rodents, and sometimes lizards.
Yeah, like... she's great. If you're listening, Catherine Alice Applegate,
we love you.
I enjoy your work.
We love you. So they turn into wolves, and Jake has to pee on everything.
Oh yeah,
He's
that's right. Yeah.
compelled to pee on everything.
Yeah, but he loves it too.
And he starts howling, and then they all start howling.
So, yeah, I get there's been better descriptions of what animals do in their compulsions.
Right.
But, like, this...
But we're not in those animals' heads. We're in Tobias's head. And instead of hearing about what a wolf does, Tobias is up there talking shit on himself.
Right.
The whole time. It's like... the amazing sense of smell. This is being a wolf. The incredible hearing. All that confident power. Those ripping teeth. The cool intelligence. Maybe later I would ask Jake or Rachel about it. Then you could ask them what it's like to be a human. Maybe they can tell you about that too, I thought bitterly. Stop it, Tobias. I ordered myself. Stop it.
I think that's why this book is so good, is because it can't be it can't be from the perspective of changing into the key animal of the week. Right, because he's always a bird. He will never know. Like, that's another thing he deeply regrets, is that he will never know the joy of turning into another animal. That's not a hawk. He turned into Dude the cat, which is great. Again, great name for a cat.
Great name.
But like that's the only other animal he turned into, and he remembered how cool that was too.
Right.
So he sees his friends all having this bonding experience, being a literal pack.
Yeah.
And that he is outside of, and he's like, "Oh, I'll never be a part of this group truly."
Right. And he even. The only people he can talk to is Jake or Rachel. Jake, because he owes him a Wookiee life debt, because he got saved by him, and Rachel, because he loves her.
Right.
And they have a close bond. So he doesn't even feel like a full member of the friend group, let alone an Animorph.
He doesn't feel human anymore.
No.
He's such an outsider at this point.
Yeah, and he's
really feeling it.
I guess I felt that if I ever started to feel really sorry for myself, I might never stop, which is the same idea as when he wanted to eat something.
No, and also I think if you looked up, I guess if I felt that if I ever started to feel really sorry for myself, I would never stop. If you like look that up in like the DSM-4 for depression, yeah, that's spiraling negative thoughts there, Tobias.
Yeah, and kudos to him for catching that he has to try and stop himself.
Right.
Because later we find out what happens when he doesn't stop himself.
Right. So this should also be mentioned. This is a book about depression.
Very much about depression, and I would say bipolar as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I suppose there's some manias happening.
There's some mania coming later.
Okay.
So they get up to there. Tobias kind of scouts ahead. He sees that there are like Bureau of Land Management people there.
Yeah,
like,
forest people.
Yeah, forest people. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Wait, they have automatic weapons. And, there's some Hork-Bajir.
Yeah.
What's a Hork-Bajir again?
Oh, yeah, the salad shooters.
Yes, the dinosaur aliens with knives for arms. And they got knives, talons.
Described as a salad shooter in every book so far. And
single one.
I'm really hoping that every single book is going to mention them as a salad shooter.
And there's helicopters at the lake. Just everybody's being blocked off.
Right. And then they're like finding campers and they're running them up and saying, hey, listen, you can't be here anymore. We're doing park ranger business. You have to go. And like shooing them away. So they're wanting to keep the area clear because there's a giant ship that's going to be doing some business in the area.
They have business.
Right. So Hork-Bajir, are they're good guys.
Yeah.
They're just good guys.
Yeah. They made a point of saying Hork-Bajir were peaceful, nice dudes.
They just happen to like be covered in knives.
Yeah. But I mean, you can't blame someone for how they look.
No, but like
what their gross adaptations are.
I guess. I don't know. If there was a species that was just covered in knives, I would say like they probably evolved those knives for reasons.
Yeah, I mean, you look at stuff like a hedgehog that's covered in pokies.
Hedgehogs are dicks.
Okay. I'm not willing to die on that hill, but okay.
Have you seen Sonic?
Yeah, he's always after gold rings.
Chili dogs. Cutting this out.
Please.
So
they get to the lake, they see all these Hork-Bajir, and they're like, oh, okay, so this is definitely some Yeerk shit.
Yeah.
That's when
Tobias is the only one that sees this. He has scouted ahead. He saw the Hork-Bajir. He saw the park rangers running people up. So he's like, I gotta warn the group.
Yeah, he's like, I gotta tell my friends. Definitely Yeerks.
Right.
So he flies back to the wolves. He's like, bros, friends. There's some aliens here. And the wolves circle him.
Right.
And he's like, hey, what the fuck are you guys doing? And he thinks, oh God, maybe the wolf brain has taken over. Maybe they're lost in wolf brain. It's like, hey, come on, I'm your buddy, I'm Tobias.
Fight it, you can do it.
He's like,
break through.
You can fight this. And then he looks at the wolves and he's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right.
Wait, I'm number 5.
And that's another cool thing is that he forgot like the number of the group because like when there's 5 Animorphs, he's not a part of it. Again, loops back to him like not being part of the wolf pack.
Yeah, so he comes upon another pack of wolves.
Yeah, it's just some wolves,
and they lunge at him.
Yeah, they attack a weird bird that is just trying to say hi.
Yeah, a bird landed right by them, and they're thinking, well, let's eat this fucking thing because if you're a wolf, why don't you?
Yeah, I would eat a bird.
And he's like, ah, shit, I gotta be smarter about this.
Right, so he avoids the attacks and
which
narrowly gets caught.
Yeah, and this is some nice foreshadowing of what's gonna fuck their day up later.
Right. So anyways, he circles around and finds the proper set of wolves, right. Makes sure that they're actually their friends.
This time he's like, hey, are you my friends? And they're like, yeah, the doy. Who do you think we are? He's like, oh, no reason.
Yeah, like I would have mentioned it. It's a funny story. But anyways, he tells them the story, like, hey, listen, there's some Hork-Bajir clearing people out. Yeah. There's definitely something going on here. And then they talk about, like, okay, we want to check this out. Right. The group wants to check out the situation, but they don't have that much time left. Mm-hmm. Or they think they don't have that much time left. They actually don't really have a great way of knowing.
No.
So what is it? They send Tobias to actually get the time.
Yeah, to go look in one of the cars at a clock. Well, Tobias thinks I'll just look in a car at a clock.
Right. And so like there's like, okay, we can shoot up there real quick and then shoot back and it'll be fine. Mm-hmm. So Tobias, goes off to find a clock. They go up to kind of check out the situation. And they confirm, yup, there's definitely something, alien going on here.
Yeah, and that's when Tobias gets distracted. He sees Price Cut Polly.
Right.
He doesn't know it until he's up in the air, but he sees her sitting on a tree. He's like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
Hey, girl.
What you doing?
How'd that hawk do? Ooh.
Well, he goes into, like, courtship, right? Like, he kind of, like, flies a little bit closer. He kind of makes sure that this other hawk isn't going to, like, poke his eyes out. And then he kind of, like, lands on a branch next to her and does the whole... I'm a bird. I'm seducing you thing.
Would you like to know some bird seduction techniques?
I think now's a great time for...
It's okay, I've got... Now, to introduce the animal report section of this, the red-tailed hawk, I think we should play the book report theme. Red-tailed hawk facts. Red-tailed hawk facts.
It's gonna get cut down so hard.
Here it comes. It's all in your head.
It's on your head, Tobias. Hold back the darkness,
Hold
Tobias.
back the darkness. So.
Good intro.
Red-tailed hawk. Scientific name? Buteo jamaicensis.
Okay.
Or Jamaicensis. I don't know. About 2.4 pounds.
Okay. 2.4 pounds, like... That's
their weight.
2 hamburgers.
2 really good hamburgers.
Okay.
There's some sexual dimorphism, of course, which just means that the females are generally larger than the women. So...
Wait.
Sorry, females are generally larger than the males, so... Okay. Tobias loves his curvy bird wife.
Great.
And they have an average wingspan of, I know I mentioned this earlier, of 3.4 to 4.8 feet.
So
pretty sizable. They're kind of a mid-range bird of prey.
They're not giant, but I still would be afraid of them.
Oh, yeah. Like, they're no golden eagle. They're not peregrine falcon.
No turkey vulture.
Chicken hawk. Although they get called chicken hawks. That's the thing about them. Although they rarely eat chickens. They just... certain parts.
We saw a red-tailed hawk.
I have seen many red-tailed hawks.
We saw one eat a pigeon in front of us.
There is that.
They're everywhere in Oregon, aren't they?
Yeah, they are everywhere in Oregon. Yeah. That's where we are. Mm-hmm. We're in Oregon. So, the way that they mate is oftentimes the male will do some high circling and calling.
Okay, that's exactly what Tobias did.
What Tobias starts doing without even realizing it. Sometimes they both do it, but oftentimes it's the men doing it. Male red-tailed hawks will dangle their legs. Sometimes female red-tailed hawks will dangle their legs.
Right.
They might touch wings.
Oh, that's cute.
Sometimes...
That's the cutest thing I've heard today. It's just like they give each other like a little bird high five.
They do. And then sometimes to test the boundaries of the territory, they'll like bob up and down like as part of their circling mating dance. And if they do that at the edge of their territory, if there's another male red-tailed hawk in the other territory, it'll start doing it too. So it's just two male birds dancing and bobbing up and down.
That sounds great.
And sometimes they'll like claw fight in midair, like, hey, get out of my territory. And then the other one's like, I'm just here to fuck. And
so, are they monogamous?
Yes, they mate for life.
Okay.
The only way, typically, that a red-tailed hawk will choose a new mate is if their old mate dies. And...
It's foreshadowing.
It's very quick with how they move on, too. It's like, the mate dies, then they get a new mate.
Okay, so there's no mourning period for
No,
the red-tailed hawk.
It's not like that. And they bump cloacas to mate. So there's going to be no descriptions of weird animal dicks in this one.
So they have an innie, not an outie?
Yeah, most birds have just cloacas. Only like 6% of birds, male birds, have dicks. Something like that.
Ducks have dicks.
Ducks do have dicks. I encourage you to Google what a duck's penis looks like.
There's some great videos.
It's horrifying.
There's some great videos.
So
they don't have that. They just have innies.
It's not good. So should I explain? Do they know what cloacas are? Do you guys know what cloacas are?
Write us in. Tell us about cloacas.
For those that know, hey, you're fucking weird like me. For those that don't know, a cloaca is a bird's pee and fuck and shithole.
Yeah.
Well, not shithole. Do they poop out of cloacas?
No, they have actual butts.
Yeah, I figured they had butts, but they have a pee and a fuck hole. And it's the shithole too. Now I'm thinking about it. And the cloacas come together. Mm-hmm. There is spreading of genetic material, gametes, sperm, and it takes about 5 to 10 seconds.
Erotic.
They mate for 5 to 10 seconds, which not good. Just not good.
Well, it's all business with birds.
However, they can mate multiple times a day.
But yeah, because it takes like a second.
Yeah. So that's how they mate. Catherine Alice Applegate was right in describing how they hunt. Yeah. What they eat. Yeah. So I don't feel like I need to go over that too much.
They eat like rats, shrews.
Shrews, voles.
What's a vole?
I don't know, some kind of rat.
Smaller rat.
Yeah, I don't want to describe voles. This ain't Redwall. I don't care.
Okay, it's small rats.
They eat small mammals. Sometimes lizards. Sometimes fish. And they have enemies. Like, sometimes at night, they will fight off other predators, like different owls, like great horned owls.
Yeah.
Their red-tailed hawks are typically very afraid of crows because a murder of crows will often kill a red-tailed hawk.
Why? Just for fun?
Because they're kind of competing for some of the same food. And so these crows are like, me and my boys here to fuck you up. Sorry,
I thought
Tobias.
like crows just kind of eat nuts and stuff.
Crows will eat any goddamn thing.
All right.
And I was reading descriptions of this dude who saw a murder of crows kill a red-tailed hawk.
Oh, no.
It's not good.
Maybe it was Tobias.
God, I hope not. I love my bird boy.
All right.
Do
they eat potatoes?
They absolutely do not eat potatoes. They are carnivores.
Okay.
Through and through.
No potatoes.
No potatoes. Sorry, Jake. You moron.
Do they ever snatch eyes?
I mean, in these books, yes. I didn't read of any actual eye snatching.
Okay, so if I'm like walking around, I shouldn't like look to the skies to make sure there are no red-tailed hawks. Because, they probably don't care about you.
No, and honestly, you're more likely to see them perched on like a signpost or a tree branch. Because I was reading, sometimes they'll just sit there for hours and do nothing. Like, not hunting.
All right.
They said sometimes perching is hunting, but also sometimes perching is just them sitting there, and that sometimes they'll just flex one wing to stay limber, but they'll just sit for hours doing nothing.
Just staring out into the void.
Which, Tobias does a lot of that.
Yeah. Tobias is a depression bird.
So, should we get back into the story?
Yeah, so, that's what he's doing, right? He's making the moves on Price Capaldi.
Price Capaldi, yeah, without even knowing it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh yeah, I need to check the time.
Right. He kind of, he got lost into his bird. Mm-hmm. His bird.
He was entranced by this hop bird, who's, a little bigger than him.
Yeah.
So he's flying around,
right.
Swooping around, and that's when the big ship shows up.
Right.
And they're all mesmerized by this giant fucking ship.
Right.
He said that describes it like a big manta ray.
Well, they describe it as, big as Ohio.
Yeah.
Which probably isn't. I think this is them exaggerating, but, it's a big ship. Size of a mountain, almost.
Yeah.
Right? So they were, being wolves nonchalantly, just trying to be as normal as possible.
Yeah, bug ships are coming, helicopters are coming, taxons are running around. So they realize this is something important.
Well, they also, are aware now that they're looking for suspicious animals.
Yeah.
Right? They're very much, aware that they can... If they figure out exactly what wolves do and we're not doing that, then we're in trouble.
They're going to get blasted, yeah.
So they're just trying to, be casual and kind of looking what the ship does. And what the ship does is go down to a nearby lake and just slurp up a bunch of lake.
It shoots a giant straw out of its ship and just starts drinking lake. Just slaking its thirst for lake real good.
It drank its milkshake. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember when...
I'm finished! Oh, I love that movie. It's so stupid.
I could hear the sucking sound. Thousands, maybe millions of gallons of water being sucked up into the ship. It's great. So it needs water. Right?
Yeah.
And they're kind of making the logical leap of it's probably also coming down for air too.
Yeah.
So this is kind of, they need resources from Earth in order to stay in high orbit.
This is how
they survive. This is how they kind of manage their aerial operations.
Yeah.
As they come down to this lake, take some water, and come back up. So they figure out, okay, we need to do something here. We don't know exactly what to do.
Yeah,
but
okay.
we should go now. The time's getting close.
Yeah, they're like, we need to be mindful. He talks more about price cut Polly. Then I saw her. I know to human eyes, every hawk looks pretty much alike, but I knew right away it was her, the hawk I had freed from the car dealer. She, too, was riding a thermal. Then he talks more about doing his dance. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like we were friends. Hawks don't know what friends means. And she certainly did not feel any gratitude towards me for saving her from captivity. Hawks don't have that sort of emotion either. In fact, in her mind, there may have been no connection between me and her freedom. Still, I soared up to her. I don't know why. I really don't. All we shared was the same outer body. We both had wings. We both had talons. We both had feathers. Suddenly, I was afraid. I was afraid of her. And it was insane because there I was, floating above an alien spaceship so big it could have been turned into a mall. But it was the hawk that frightened me. Or maybe not the hawk herself. Maybe it was the feeling I had rising up to meet her in the sky. The feeling of recognition. The feeling of going home. The feeling that I belonged with her. It hit me in a wave of disgust and horror. No. I was Tobias, a human being, not a bird. I banked sharply away from her. I was human. It was a boy named Tobias, a boy with blonde hair that was always a mess, a boy with human friends, human interests. But part of me kept saying, it's a lie. It's a lie. You are the hawk. The hawk is you, and Tobias is dead. I plummeted toward the ground. I folded my wings back and welcomed the sheer speed. Faster, faster. Then, with eyes that Tobias never had, I saw the wolf pack below, and I saw the danger before them. So he's up there, flirting.
And, having an existential crisis.
Yeah, he's up there
at the same time.
He's like, no, I'm dead. I am not me.
I'm not me, and I should make it with this bird.
Yeah, it's like, I need to get with this bird. And he's like, oh, my friend wolves are surrounded by real wolves.
Right. So
Jake starts getting into an alpha battle.
Yeah, because Jake, he's the natural leader, so he, of course, has to swing his wolf dick around.
Yeah, because there was a dead rabbit there,
Yeah.
and the real wolves wanted to eat the rabbit. Jake is just letting his wolf brain take over.
They want to, like, run, but they can't.
They know that they can't because they'll just get chased and killed.
Right. So, you know, they have to hold their ground.
Yeah, and it's... Jake's talking about how he can't lose. He can't back away. He's losing to the wolf brain.
Right. So part of it isn't like strategy. Part of it is just, I can't back away because I'm the alpha wolf and I can't do it.
Yeah.
The wolf brain is too strong.
And then
Cassie, like, also kind of pipes in with the, like, well, you know, wolves also, you know, need to, you know, guard their territory. Otherwise they'll chase us out.
Right.
Right.
And
so,
it's, like... They're doing the same thing that Tobias is doing. They're losing themselves to their temporary morph. But Tobias knows that it's temporary. And he's telling them to buck the fuck up.
Right.
Be adults about this. And his friends aren't listening.
Yeah.
They're locked in this, like, fight. So Tobias solves the fucking problem for them.
Right.
He, again, shows leadership by swooping in and stealing that rabbit.
Yeah. He's not thrilled about it either. He's not excited to, like...
No.
Because he knows that, like, the wolves will probably try to chase him down. They're quick.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's realistic about his capabilities as a red-tailed hawk. Mm-hmm. And he knows that it's not going to just be as easy as swooping in and grabbing it and going.
No.
Because, like, yeah, that's what he does. He goes in, grabs the rabbit, and then, like, the wolves nip at his tail feathers, get a little bit of them, but he's able to get away.
Do you think this is Tobias's first attempt to kill himself?
No.
Without thinking about it?
I think it's his, like... He has hesitation. He doesn't want to, right? Like, he specifically kind of hold back and is afraid of the situation. But he is being reckless with his life, you know?
Yeah, without realizing it.
And he's not, like, talking it over and letting him know what the plan is.
No.
Like, hey, gang, I'm going to go do this, because he knows that they're going to try to convince him not to, right? So he's being reckless with his life, but I don't think that he is...
it's maybe not a conscious effort.
Yeah.
But after that huge existential crisis, him being this reckless with his life, this is a bit of a red flag.
Sure.
So he snaps it, and they're like, he grabs the rabbit, and he's like, get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Because the wolves start chasing Tobias. Yeah. But he's like, I'm just going to fly away. And then he realizes, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. We need to know what time it is.
Right. Yeah, that was his whole mission to begin with, but he kind of got sidetracked by Lady Hawk.
Sidetracked by the giant spaceship, the Lady Hawk, and these wolves.
Right.
Things are not going good for the Animorphs today.
Right. So he's like, I need to find the time. So he finds a controller with a watch, looks at the watch, and realizes the time is up. Well, it's not even, it's up, it's past
It's time. Past. It's been greater than 2 hours.
Right. So he just comes flying back, hoping that the watch was off. Right. You know, because like 5 minutes maybe, like, you know, because 2 hour hard deadline is kind of weird.
Right. So he immediately starts screaming, morph, stop what you're doing, and morph.
And they're like, how much time do we have? And he's just like, do it, go, none.
Yeah. He's like, he didn't tell them how bad it was.
But yeah, he hid like how like that they were late.
Yeah,
right? He's like, oh no, the time's up now. Not that they were late,
right?
Because he knew that they would just get freaked out at that point, and
right?
Maybe not do what they need to do. Again, a leader thing to do.
Yeah. You don't tell a man they're dying. You're just like, it's going to be okay. We got this. And I know that as someone who has helped people die.
All right, great. Thanks, nurse. Remember, all nurses will lie to you.
Well, we know the power of hope.
Yeah.
So they start to change, but it's not right.
Yeah, they start to change, and like they're not able to do it the way that they've done it in the past. Like, yes, it's still gross, but like some things aren't changing.
What time is it? Jake demanded. You have about 2 minutes, I said. It was a lie. According to the clock, they were already 7 minutes too late. Too late. But Cassie was changing. And Rachel screams. All their morphs are going wrong. It's almost like this time it hurts.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, it does hurt. Like, you know, they're crying in horror. It's an awful sound. Half wolf, half human, right? They're stuck. And like, you know, it's one of those things where like without them really fighting for it, they probably wouldn't have actually made the morph to human. Mm-hmm. Spoiler: they make it back to human.
Well, yeah, they make it. To human.
But for them, it's like it's horrifying. Right, they are feeling legitimate fear of, oh no, I'm going to become what Tobias is. Right, I'm going to be a forever wolf, and that sucks. And Tobias looking at the fear and the panic and like the resentment of being a forever wolf,
and
like makes him realize like how much they don't want to become what he is.
Right, and it even says this: I saw Marco roll his human eyes up and stare at me. His gaze locked on me. It was like he hated me, or feared me. Both, maybe. I didn't move. If Marco needed me so he could concentrate, that was fine. But it sent a shiver of disgust through me. I suddenly saw myself as they all must see me. As something frightening. A freak. An accident. A sickening, pitiable creature. And then Marco was able to morph back. They were fighting against it. Because their wolf bodies were fighting against morphing, which I think that's what we're to understand.
I guess. I mean, that the wolf mind wins after 2 or so hours.
Right. And it also means this is very fluid, this 2-hour limit thing.
Oh, yeah, I guess it depends on the person, right?
Yeah.
Like, because Cassie was able to get out of it, like, there was effort involved, but she was, able to overcome pretty easily. Mm-hmm. Marco sucks at morphing, I think. And
yeah.
And, like, it took him a long time, and he wouldn't have made it had he not actually looked at Tobias and got that motivation to, like, no, I don't want to become this.
Yeah, and he's like, I fucking hate that bird boy. I'm not going to be fucking wolf boy. This ain't wolf and bird boy. We're not doing this.
I'd watch that TV series. Wolf and bird boy. Sounds Norwegian.
Bleed.
But they make it out, and they're all freaked out.
Yeah.
Right?
And then
they're also all naked with not naked. They got
their stuff.
They got their stuff and no shoes.
No.
Right?
And more shoes.
And they're in the middle of the woods now.
And they're all so thankful and happy that they did it. We're okay, Jake sighed. I was happy for them. Really, I was. But suddenly I didn't want to be there.
Right.
Because he watched them escape his fate.
Well, yeah, specifically Marco's like, I'm human again, Marco muttered. Human, toes, hands, arms, and shoulders. And he checked himself, and Tobias is like, I will never see my toes again.
Right. He's like,
those are gone now.
He's like, that ain't me.
Well, yeah, I looked at my talons. They would never be feet again. I looked at my wing. It would never be an arm. I would never again... it would never again end in a hand. I would never touch anything, anyone again. And then he just freaks out and just flies away silently. Rachel and Jake are the only ones that call out to him.
And the last one he hears is Rachel.
Right.
He caught a blessed breeze and soared up and away, his own silent, voiceless scream echoing in his head. He's just flying away, screaming in his head.
Yep.
God, how many times have you done that?
Every drive usually, and just kind of having a good time.
Well,
actually, no. When I'm driving, I actually do scream. It's fun.
So he flies back to his little house, but he doesn't tell anybody, right?
Well, yeah, he just goes off, and like they have to still get out of the woods somehow. Like,
which they don't mention. I'm sure they just turn into wolves and walk home again.
Well, that's the thing I've been wondering. Like, what's the turnaround time? Do they have to like not be wolves for 2 hours and then they can become wolves again?
No, I think they can morph again immediately, but it takes a physical toll. Like they have to have the energy to do it.
Okay, because this seems odd. Like, why not just turn human and then like, all right, back to wolves. It doesn't matter. It's
fine. So he flies to Jake's attic where he's been living. He lives in a drawer, in a dresser in Jake's attic.
Adorable.
Adorable and sad.
I don't know. I'd like to live in a dresser.
And
seems cozy.
Okay.
What? I mean, it's like a little pull-out bed.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to roll around, but living in a drawer is fine. But he opens his Rubbermaid container of meat and potatoes and green beans.
Yeah, which sucks.
Yeah, and he's like, I can't eat 2/3 of this meal, Jake, you idiot. So he
barely eats. He doesn't even like the hamburger, right?
No, he's just eating cold, awful hamburger, and he realized it's not satisfying him.
Yeah, and
he even says, I ate some of the hamburger. It was cold. It was dead. It made me feel bad to be eating it, but it filled me up. But it wasn't dead meat that I wanted. I wanted live meat. I wanted living, breathing, scurrying prey. I wanted to swoop down on it and grab it with my razor talons and tear into it. That's what I wanted. What the hawk wanted. And when it came to food, it was hard to deny the hawk brain in my head. The hunger I felt was the hunger of the hawk.
The Hunger of the Hawk would be a good album name.
Yeah, the hunger of the hawk. I'm Tobias, and this is the hunger of the hawk. Ooh.
Good. But, yeah, I think, like, he's giving up more and more on humanity here. I think he's really wanting to be a bird and kind of letting himself be a bird a bit more.
Well, he just saw his friends thanking God that they were not him.
Right.
So he has no place in that culture. So, of course, he's going to immediately be like, yeah, let's throw all this fucking human shit away.
Yeah, he's dreaming of, like, sticks. He doesn't want to be cozy in a warm house. He wants to be, like, out in nature, sitting in a safe place. Because, like, you know, animals experience nature differently. When we're outside, we're cold, we're miserable, we want to be inside. If a hawk is just hanging out on the top of a tree, that's where his home is. Sure, he's probably cold, but it just doesn't matter. It's his nature. You know, and he wants to be out in his nature.
Yeah, and so he's flying around aimlessly, daydreaming about being a hawk until he goes to the one place where he feels welcome. He flies to Rachel's.
Right.
It's the only place where he knows to go.
Right. So he flies up to Rachel's window and kind of throws the bird equivalent of a rock at it.
Yeah. Tap, tap, tap. Or like he whispers, "Seer."
And then Rachel's like, "Tobias, you've been gone for way too long. We were worried about you." Right. And, you know, this is where Tobias kind of opens up to Rachel and kind of expresses his feelings. Right.
Yeah. And he looks in the mirror and sees himself. I had a reddish tail of long, straight feathers. The rest of my back was mottled dark brown. I had big shoulders that looked kind of hunched, like I was a football lineman ready for the snap. My head was streamlined. My brown eyes were fierce as I stared over the deadly weapon of my beak. I turned my head forward, looking away from my reflection. I don't know what's happening to me, Rachel. It's like he's losing any part of himself, and he doesn't know what to do about it.
Well, neither does Rachel, too.
No, she's not great.
She gives the weak advice that people try to give when, like, a friend of theirs is hurting, but they don't exactly know how to handle them.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, what, how do you mean? She asked. She bit her lip and tried not to let me see, but of course, Hawkeyes miss nothing.
Yeah.
Today, the hawk we freed, she was there at the lake. I wanted to go with her. I felt like I belonged with her. You belong with us, Rachel said firmly. You are a human being, Tobias. How can you be so sure, I asked. And it just goes into, like, this back and forth of Rachel trying to reaffirm his humanity. It's like, listen, you have a human brain, you have human needs and desires, right? You know, and she finds a picture of Tobias because he's forgotten what he looks like at this point. And I guess, like, a question for you is that if you couldn't see yourself for 2 weeks, would you remember exactly what you look like?
I'd remember the bad parts.
Right,
the parts I don't like.
You remember the parts that stand out, but you wouldn't have the full picture.
No.
Right, maybe that's what Tobias is going through right now. He only remembers the bad parts of his humanity, so he kind of needs to re-anchor himself in reality a little bit.
And she shows him a tenderness she has for him that he didn't know she had.
Right.
He obviously has that same tenderness for her, but he says to her, "I didn't know you had a picture of me." She nodded. "It's not a great picture. In real life, you look better." In real life, I echoed. Nice. It's like, here's this woman that he's in love with saying, "I like who you are. I like who you were. What matters is who you are on the inside."
Well, yeah.
And like, he's not hearing it. He's only hearing who I was.
Well, yeah, and like present and past tense here are important. Like who I was or who I am, like, or who you are in reality. Like in reality, you're a human.
Right.
Like this bird situation that you are in isn't reality for Rachel, right? But it is very much reality for Tobias, and I think he knows that Rachel is kind of being Pollyanna-ish about like the returning to human form, right? Because like Rachel really wants him to become human again,
right? And I think this is the really honest and unspoken but pernicious effect that depression has.
Sure.
Here's someone who loves Tobias telling Tobias how they feel about him, and all he can hear is the bad stuff.
Right.
What better description of depression is there than that?
Right.
He is so distracted by his own pain and his own loss that he can't see that someone cares for him and is being honest with him.
Yeah. He wishes that he could turn back into human, but I think he is so fixated on the idea that he just won't.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's not like, I don't even think Rachel's being Pollyanna. She says, Tobias, someday the Andalites will return. If they don't, we're all lost. All the human race. If they do come back, I know they'll have some way to return you to your own body. I wish I was sure, I said. I am sure, she said. She put every ounce of faith into those 3 words. She wanted me to believe it. But I could see the tears that were threatening to well up in her eyes as she lied. I don't think she's lying. I think she's telling him what she believes, and he can't believe it, and he's misreading her.
Well, I think he actually believes that she is just,
humoring him.
Yeah, not humoring, but more just she's naive. She hasn't lived with the consequences of Tobias' situation, right? He's like, oh, you'll be fine. If you talk to somebody who say is paralyzed, right, and you're like, don't worry, I'm sure that science will come up with a way to fix you. That's somebody else not wanting to deal with somebody who's paralyzed reality that they probably won't walk again.
That's true.
And it's for their own sake. They're just like, hey, I want you to walk again because the alternative is too painful for me to comprehend. And the other person's just like, well, that's what life is. Sorry.
And
I'm a bird now, sorry.
Right. And I think it's a really smart and effective way to communicate these complicated feelings like this in a fucking kid's book about brain aliens.
Yeah, what's the recommended reading age for Animorphs?
Oh, it's got to be 9, 10, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And he's looking at her I know she's lying to me. I can see it with my hawk eyes. Like I said, hawks don't miss much.
Damn.
So, even he's not allowing himself to have hope, which is the saddest thing for depressed people. Which, hope is a weapon when you have depression. Because if you have hope, then you have the ability to be hurt again. Which is what, I'll speak for myself, which is what I don't ever want when I'm depressed. Because lack of hope is a lack of fear. You can do anything when you don't hope for stuff.
No fear.
I knew that if I tried to open up and be honest, you would do this.
No, I get what you're saying, that it sounds... The worst thing you want to hear when you're depressed is...
It's going to get better.
Have hope.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like... It's so immediately eye-rolling that... Commercialism has ruined the idea of hope. Because every time I hear, have hope for the future, I'm just like... You suck, and you're trying to sell me something. It feels cheap when it doesn't necessarily should, because I think if you allow for kind of hope to take place in your heart when you're depressed, it's painful, because then you get, you start thinking about well, what if it doesn't work out?
What if it doesn't work out?
So you kind of you guard yourself from the negative consequences and say listen, I'll just deal with being a bird.
Right. It's I would rather be this depressed and in pain all this time because I know that.
Yeah.
Rather than suffer another loss like I did, or whatever caused the depression.
Right.
Because if you don't have hope, you can't be hurt.
No fear. One fear.
Just one fear.
All right, so this is a low point for Tobias though, because because Rachel said Rachel is offering her love, and Tobias is kind of well, that's nice, and then flies away.
Yeah, he's but I'm a bird.
Yeah. you can't hug a bird. So what happens next to the story?
He spends all day flying around the beach because he doesn't go to school. He just flies,
right?
And he doesn't hunt.
This is a nice slice of life where it's just kind of he's flying around, just seeing the town, being the bird, because he doesn't know what to do with his days anymore.
Right.
He talks about well, what I would normally do if I was a human child without school. I'd just watch TV, eat some Pringles, chill on the couch, which sounds great, by the way. That's a good life.
That sounds exactly like what I want to do.
Right. He's missing his human life more and more. He wants to take a shower,
Yeah.
Which, like, you could do that as a bird. Just take a bird shower.
Well, kinda.
I want to see a bird just, like, sit in the shower doing human things. Like, there's a bird just, like, watching TV and a bird just, like, you know, trying to eat a pancake but not being able to.
And it's weird because he watches his friends go home. Like, he doesn't interact with any of them. He just floats on the thermals and watches them.
Well, yeah, because, like, what else is he going to do? It's like, hey, what kind of human things are you doing, huh?
Well, I mean, it's self-isolation.
Yeah.
That's what it is. He could pop down there and be like, hey, I'm hanging out. They know that he can see them do whatever, which is why earlier in the book, when they were talking about the heist, and he's like, I bet Margot's going to be mad. Rachel winked at him and he saw it up in the sky.
Yeah.
So he could interact, but he's just watching them and staying away from them.
Yeah. They go in a little bit on the sharing, just to kind of remind everybody that there's a sharing.
Yeah, the sharing is the Yerk group. That's how they capture people and put slugs in their brains.
Not important to the story, but they want to remind people.
Do we even need to recap it for listeners?
The sharing?
Yeah.
Well, they don't even talk about it in this book. They're just kind of like, there's a sharing. It's how they convince people to get brain slugs.
Yeah. Hey, you want to join our youth group and also worship the slug?
Well, like, yeah, the great thing about this book is that they don't really go... It's not a Yerk-heavy book.
No, it's...
You know, like, the Yerks are there and they kind of, like, push things into motion a little bit, but they're not really the main focus of the plot, which is the best, you know, because, like, it turns into this character story.
Right.
Right? Like, they have to remind people that there are Yerks and it's a problem, but that's it.
But the Yerks are incidental to what's happening in this kid's brain. And they talk about how Cassie has to go home to take care of a great horned owl because he landed on a power line and got fried.
Nice.
To which Marco says, friend of yours, Tobias? And the others all shot him nasty looks. But the truth was, it made me feel okay to be teased by Marco. Marco teases everyone. And it's like...
No, like...
I think that's him accepting the abuse. Like, in the last chapter, he's like, Marco looked at me with hate.
Right.
And he pities me. But if I need to be someone he hates, then I'll do that for him. He takes this pain on. And maybe it's half that, and maybe it's he just likes being included. Because he does say Marco teases everyone.
Right.
So if Marco's teasing him, that means Tobias is at least included enough in the group.
It's both, probably, right? I mean, like, you know, it's not like positive attention, but it is attention.
Right. It's like, okay, maybe I do fit in.
Yeah, I fit in, but I'm just, like, lesser than everybody, so it's fine.
Yeah, I know I suck. Hey, that's right, I suck. Thanks, friends.
Yeah, and then they go into, like, how cool owls are, which they are.
Yeah, a bunch of owl facts.
I got some owl facts, you know, because, again, this is a book that we have to sell to libraries. And they talk about Rachel's gymnastic recital that they're putting on the mall the next day.
They know that they got to do something about this ship. And then they talk about Rachel's recital.
Right. Because they're trying to schedule a good time to go and take care of the ship situation. And Rachel's like, I got to recital tomorrow. Jake has to do something with his parents.
Yeah, and Tobias is like, hey, I'll scout. I'll see what I can find. I'll just go check it out.
Well, yeah, they want to find a way to destroy the ship. And then that's where they crack the plan of, hey, maybe we don't destroy the ship.
Yeah.
Maybe we just kind of find a way to make it visible.
Yeah, they're like, we're going to turn off this stealth thing. People can't deny it. Right. And then we don't have to fight this dumb war anymore.
Which is a good plan. Like, I like that plan. It was like, hey, if we blow it up, nobody will notice. But if it's just like a giant floating ship over a city, that's a big problem.
That's a thing that people will see.
That will solve their whole situation. Because then they can actually just talk to people about it.
Yeah. And then, I mean, Tobias is going to scout. Rachel's got gymnastics. Marco's going to go watch the gymnastics to mock her.
Cool.
Which, hey, great friend move there, bud. And they talk about disabling the ship.
Yeah, and that's when they also come up with the plan of, like, how they get into the ship. So they're going to turn into fish, and they're going to swim up the little straw.
Yeah, that's
so
a dumb plan.
Well, like, it's not the worst plan. But, like, the big question I had at this time was, like, okay, they're going to be in the water tank. What's to say that they can't, like, they're just trapped in the water tank? When I collect a bunch of water, it's not like, you know, if I have a canteen and I put a canteen in a lake and I now have water, it's not like there's an easy way to get on me at that point.
Right. And so I think this plan is stupid enough that kids will be like, oh yeah, good plan. But us adults, and I think Catherine Alice Applegate, thinking of it, was like, that's a dumb plan.
Yeah.
And obviously it does not work out how they want it to.
Right, but like they're just making the plan right now.
Right.
So.
They're like, we're going to do this.
Yeah. So Rachel is now at a recital. Okay, so chapter 14 starts out with the gang hanging out and kind of like reminiscing about the time that they almost got stuck as a wolf.
Mm-hmm. Like, this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
None of us liked this. Even Tobias is like, I was weirded out by watching you all struggle to get out of the morphs.
Right. And you know, I think they're just kind of revisiting like that kind of pain of like turning from wolf to human and saying like, hey, just remember the good old days when we were just like normal kids and that was fine. I could play video games. You have homework to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're just like kind of being normal kids for a little bit.
Yeah, and Tobias says, either way, it wasn't something I could participate in. It's kind of a shame, really. With my eyesight and my reaction time I have, I could probably be major competition in the first-person shooters. But joysticks and controller pads aren't made for talons. So he like swoops out and he starts thinking about, one, the adventures they've done.
A bird could play video games.
A bird could play video games. And then he starts thinking about their vice principal. Like he goes and spies. He always checks because they know that the vice principal Chapman is a high up yerk, so he always watches to see what's going on there, which I don't think the other people know that he does that. Like, he's keeping tabs on Chapman.
Yeah, he's secretive about like what he does with his day because I think it would make them sad.
Yeah. And then he starts thinking like, oh yeah, Chapman's daughter is going to be there at the mall with Rachel doing gymnastics. And he says, remembering the mall made me sad. It was just one of the places I couldn't go anymore. There's a long list. School, movie theaters, amusement parks. Wait a minute. I could go to the amusement park, and I wouldn't even have to pay admission. The thought made me happy. I don't know why. It wasn't like I could ride the roller coaster, but still, the idea kind of perked me up.
He could ride the roller coaster.
He could.
He could just like, and like when it comes up to the top, it's like fly down as a bird and kind of sit on one seat. It'd be great.
And he says, I could bus ride into the gardens, which is their zoo, anytime I wanted. Come to think of it, I could also watch any football game I ever wanted to see, too, as long as it was outdoors. In concerts. Whoa, big stadium concerts. No problem. No tickets needed. That's the way I needed to be thinking. There were millions of things I could do as a bird that I couldn't do as human. But not right now. I turned and headed towards the mountains. I had a job to do. It was another good thing about being me. I was the ultimate airborne spy.
Yeah, so he's getting into being a bird a little bit, like, because there are benefits, right?
Yeah.
He could go to any concert he wanted. He could, you know, do fun things as a bird, and kind of like, you know, he's starting to feel a little bit up now.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I could make it work. I could be human. I could be a bird.
Yeah.
I'm not as alone or as incapable as I thought I was, which is a great growing moment.
And then he gets hungry.
Followed by the biggest setback of the giant depressive episode.
Right, he's feeling good. If only I had something to eat. I was feeling a little hungry. I should have asked Jake to grab me a snack. It happened before I even really had time to think about it. I guess it was because I was feeling good, feeling relaxed. See, so feeling good will always bring pain.
Yeah. Feeling good will lead you to make mistakes you don't want to make.
Right.
So
I was above the woods, just a half a mile or so beyond Cassie's farm. The trees opened up to form a little meadow. This is what redtails love, a little meadow.
Uh-huh.
It was full of prey. Squirrels scurrying for nuts, hopping, then sitting up on their hind legs looking nervous. Mice that scurried from hole to hole. Rabbits. A rat.
And we get to the rat.
Right.
My eyes focused on it with absolute intensity. I sort of shrugged one shoulder, turned sharply in midair, and plummeted toward the earth in a stoop. My wings were back, my head low, my talons tucked back for maximum speed. Sudden flare. I opened my wings. The shock of the air, talons raked forward, eyes never moving for even a millimeter from the rat. Focus. I struck. An incredible rush of excitement surged through me. I was ecstatic. That's the only word for it. It was intense beyond anything I've ever experienced. Talons hit warm flesh. My razor claws squeezed. The rat squirmed in my grip, but it was helpless. Helpless. I was in a frenzy. I hooded my wings around my kill, shielding it from any other predator that might try to steal it away. No. I fell back. I looked down at my talons. They were red with blood. Rat meat dripped from my beak. In my panic, I forgot what I was. I tried to run away, but I no longer had legs and feet to run with. I had killing talons, bloody talons. I fell in the dirt. No, I cried voicelessly. But I could still see the dead rat, and I could taste it. And no matter how many times I said no, it would always be yes. And it's
so good.
It's
so good. Like,
for the first time in his morph, he's relaxed. He's happy.
He's never been happier than he has been, like, eating that rat.
Yeah. He describes it as pure ecstasy eating this rat.
Right.
And here's another reason why I identify with Tobias.
You love the taste of rat meat.
No. He eats something he really wanted, then immediately regrets and hates himself.
You can always say no, but the answer is always going to be yes.
The answer is always going to be yes.
What you doing there, Pop-Tart? I greedily shield the Pop-Tart from competitors.
I flapped my arm fat. Keep them away.
No.
So he just flies. He's like, whoa, what the fuck? No, this is not okay.
Well, yeah, he starts losing it. Like,
he loses
more
his shit.
Yeah.
I flew as hard and as fast as I could. I wanted to go so fast that the memory of killing and eating the rat would be left behind me. But not even I can fly that fast. Human. I am human. I am Tobias. I don't know why it was Rachel I wanted to see right at that moment. Maybe she was just the closest thing I had to a real friend. Maybe it was the way she seemed to be sure of who and what I was. I needed someone to be sure. Down below, I saw the huge irregular rectangles of the mall. I saw a glass door. People streamed in and out. Rachel, that's where she is. See her! He screams out. I screamed in rage and frustration and terror as I stooped. I shot towards the door like I'd shot toward the rat. But I wasn't going to stop. I wasn't going to slow down. I was just going to end this right now. I would hit the glass at full speed, and maybe that would awaken me from this nightmare.
So he's doing the equivalent of driving into traffic,
yeah,
but like in bird form. Like he's trying to, he's trying to find a good way to kill himself.
Yeah, he's like, I can't live with what I've done to myself, with what I am, with who I am. Fuck this.
Right.
I gotta kill myself.
Right, so he goes to the mall because it's the only, like, kind of sprinkle of hope is that he finds Rachel.
Yeah, is that he might see Rachel.
Right, so, but, like...
And then, before you can find Rachel, he sees the glass door and he just says, well, fuck it. I'll just end this.
Right.
Let's get me over with.
But somebody holds the door open for the...
Like, after you, Mr. Hawk.
So then, like, he just, like, keeps on going. He's like,
Yeah, he flies in there, and he's like, no impact, no awakening. That's so that's in my notes. No impact, no awakening.
Let's step back a little bit.
Okay.
So, this bird loves and wants death.
Yeah, I must have been doing 80 as I hurtled through the open door. A second set of doors, but these were open too. No impact, no awakening.
He wants the awakening of death.
He wants to wake from this living hell.
Right, and then he kind of just, like, describes, like... He's going through the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah,
like, the colors everywhere. Yeah. There's lights everywhere because he is still a hawk, and inside a mall is probably terrifying.
Yeah, and it even says, I was a bullet blazing inches over the heads of shoppers. I heard screams. I heard cries of amazement. I didn't care. I wanted to hit something. I wanted to wake up. I wanted to fall to the ground because my wings had disappeared and been replaced by clumsy legs and flailing arms. I wanted to be me again. I am human. I am human. I am Tobias.
Right. So... Here's the thing. He keeps on saying, I want to wake up. Well, Captain Alice Applegate keeps on saying, I want to wake up, because he can't say, I want to be dead in a kid's book that will be in school libraries.
But
like, it makes it even more visceral, avoiding the topic of suicide.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I want to wake up, which is like, it feels almost more suicidal.
Yeah. It's like, this is obviously not real. I'm losing my shit here.
I want to wake up.
If I just end it, I will finally get to wake up and be through with this.
I will finally have peace.
If I can just hit a window and wake up in the kingdom of heaven, this will all be okay.
St. Peter will be there.
Shaquille O'Neal. Those crazy kooks can't enable.
Dude the cat.
Dude.
Yeah, who's feeding Dude right now?
I hope that he eats Dude at some point.
Seriously?
No.
Yeah, so, like, he's in a mall. I wrote down some, like, funny things that were in malls. But, like, ultimately, this is about Tobias. This is his thing. Like, he's going through some shit.
Yeah, and then he finds the gymnastics, and he sees Rachel on the balance beam. She was just raising one leg, balancing on the other. I was a brown and gold and red missile shooting past her. Tobias, she cried. Straight ahead, a blank wall where they were going to put a new shop. I was still moving fast. I could still hit it and wake myself up from this nightmare. No, Rachel cried.
So he is desperately looking for any solid wall object that he can get enough speed in to end it. And so Rachel is doing what she can, but she's in shock, right? Like, she sees her friend trying to end it all.
And he hears her yell no, and Tobias said, it goes like this. I flared and shot straight up. The wall scraped my stomach. The ceiling was glass, a skylight. I was there. A last-second turn almost too late. My shoulder hit the glass. I bounced off and began to fall down towards the upraised faces and staring at me with horror and amazement and pity. I saw Rachel's face in that crowd. Her eyes pleaded silently. No, she mouthed. No. I fell, stunned and dazed. Rachel, still balanced on the beam, caught me as I dropped. She fell off, and the two of us tumbled onto the mat. You have to get out of here, she muttered tersely.
That kind of sucks. Like, she's kind of like chiding him for being inside the mall.
And she saves him.
Yeah.
So what he learns here is, no, the wall did not kill him, and that, two, Rachel saved him.
Well, I mean...
And Tobias says,
yes, no.
I killed, I cried. You don't understand, Rachel. I'm lost. I killed. No, as long as you have me and the others, you aren't lost, Tobias. And so, hearing that, he's like, fuck you.
Yep.
He immediately starts flapping up and heading for the ceiling. He saw the skylight, the blue sky.
He just wanted to get out. Like, Rachel, again, was showing, like, compassion and love, and
he was not hearing it.
Right. So he's just looking for escape at this point. In whatever form that may take.
Yeah. Like, he is so disassociated, he lets the hawk take over.
Right.
The hawk in my head wanted the sky. It knew safety was up in the high blue. The hawk powered straight up at the glass that he didn't understand. The glass that would be like a brick wall. But I couldn't fight it anymore. The hawk had won. I had killed and eaten, and I had loved it. The ecstasy of the hunt. Ecstasy. In a second, it would all be over. One more stroke of my powerful wings, and the glass... ... Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a familiar face on the upper level. Suddenly, something shot past me. Small, white, stitched. Crash! The baseball hit the glass just inches ahead of my beak, just where Marco had aimed it. Glass shards fell around me. I shot through the hole. Sky. The hawk flew fast and straight. I let it go. I surrendered. Tobias, a boy whose face I could no longer remember, no longer existed.
So Marco
saved Tobias.
No, that he did it as a human.
Yeah.
He's just like, he's just, some dude throwing a baseball at a window. But quick thinking of Marco.
I think at this point, I should say that the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255.
Yeah.
If you don't take anything out of this...
Content warning, there's some suicidal ideation in Animorphs. Yeah, because, like, it felt real. And, like, that's the thing I kind of, like, when I was talking to you about this book beforehand, was that, like, I feel like Catherine Ellis Applegate was going through some shit when she was writing this particular chapter, this particular book, because the descriptions of wanting to escape,
hopelessness, and then just letting go, and like, I'm gonna die now,
right? You let the bird brain take over, like, it's an allegory for letting kind of your depression just kind of take control of your life, and then, like, all right, cool, I'm just gonna, like, run into this window as hard as I can.
Yeah, and it's like he disassociates and just spends the next few days hunting.
Yeah, he's in this fugue state.
He's not himself. he's the bird.
Yeah, essentially this chapter 16 is just written by a bird.
Yeah, and he builds a nest.
He looks at the owls when they hunt at night, and he's like, he does more like bird shop, like, the owls are silent killers, they're so amazing. And
he's like, this is great, love being a bird, all that fun stuff.
He's looking at some raccoons. He wants to eat some baby raccoons. Mm-hmm. But then he's like, raccoons are kind of tough and violent, so that's, a little bit iffy.
I can't do it. The mother raccoon will kill me.
Right. So, like, he's just kind of... He's thinking as a bird. He's 100% bird now.
He's just all bird.
There's no Tobias. Tobias wouldn't normally think about, like, eating a baby raccoon.
Right. And so he just aimlessly, without thinking about it, flies back to a certain price cut Polly. He flies back and he's like, yeah, there she is. I'm here now.
Yep.
I floated overhead, waiting to see if she would spot me, and waiting to see what she would do when she did notice me. I had to be cautious. She was a female, and females are a third bigger on average than males.
Animal fact.
So he's just floating there, and he's like, I'm here for you. I'm going to start doing this.
Right.
And that's when he sees something. Prey. Yeah. He describes it as prey.
Right.
He sees something running. The prey was running awkwardly on its two legs, running and threading its way through the underbrush. It stumbled and hit the ground hard. It seemed very slow to get up. It ran again. I could hear gasping breath. It was weakening. The prey was squealing, loud, yelping vocalizations. Prey often squeal. The predator moved on two legs also, but those legs were built for greater speed. It had blades growing from its arms. It used the blades to slash the brushes and weeds. It cleared its way through them like a lawnmower chopping down tall grass. Lawnmower? No. Something else. Salad shooter. Yes, that's what Marco called them. Marco? The image came to my mind. Short, dark hair, human. It hit me like a lightning bolt. Suddenly I realized this prey was a human. So that's what brings him out of his bird fugue state.
Yeah, and I like the description of just like, oh, here's some prey. Yeah. Oh, wait, no, it's a dumb human.
Yeah, he recognizes prey immediately. Although he knows it's prey he can't eat. Right. He recognizes prey.
It's someone's prey.
Yeah, and he recognizes predator as well. Then he realized, no, it's human.
Right.
It's a human.
And the great thing is, it's like, okay, and then he just like moves on with his life a little bit until like the human in question starts yelling, "Help me! Help me! Help me! I'm about to be eaten by weird bug monster."
And then he says, "I don't know how to describe what happened next. It was like my entire world flipped over. Like 1 minute it was one thing, one way, then boom, it was something totally different. It was like opening your eyes after a dream. The prey was a human being. The predator was a Hork-Bajir. This was wrong. It had to be stopped." So
he goes for his old trusted move and goes right for the eyes.
He lets out a seer.
Yeah.
And he goes for the Hork-Bajir's eyes.
So like I guess like I still am looking for that motivation to save humans. Right, like because he knew that he had to. It's like, okay, I have to save this person, but like it hasn't like really hit him why yet.
No, he just has to do it.
Like, yeah, it's a thing I have to do. And he still does. He still calls them humans. He hasn't like referred to them as like what he is. It's all very distant.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna save this human from this monster.
Right.
Which.
Yeah, and
he does.
Yeah, he does it.
This is some pretty bad writing.
Yeah. Oh, do you want to? Yeah.
No, it's just
a few seconds earlier. I was thinking that no sane hawk would go after a full-grown raccoon. Now is going after a Hork-Bajir. Hork-Bajir compared to raccoons like a nuclear bomb compares to a bow and arrow.
Yeah. And so he's like, Yeerks, Andalites, my friends, the Animorphs. Yes, my friends. I remembered now. But this human was not one of them. This human prey was older, a stranger. The freed hawk was watching me. I could almost feel her drawing me toward her. It was like a magnet. She was my kind. She was like me. But the park rangers were in hot pursuit of the human now. The human was nothing like me. Poor, clumsy ground runner that he was. He was just prey. And yet for some reason I couldn't let him be prey. I couldn't. Me. Tobias.
Yeah.
He remembers who he is.
He remembers who he is. I wish it was something different. You know, like if I had my druthers, I'd rather like see him actually just watch this dude just get eviscerated, and then like be called back by seeing his friends in the similar situation. It's like, okay, I can't let that happen to somebody I have feelings for.
I don't know if Tobias is so far gone that he would let that happen to someone.
I mean, obviously not.
And
right?
it's a kid's book.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, maybe don't.
So he's like, it jumps ahead in time. He flies to Rachel's house.
Yeah.
Tells her that he saved someone. And she's like, we've been fucking worried about you, you piece of shit.
You've been gone for what, week? 2 weeks?
We all went terrified. Cassie said maybe you were killed or something. There are all kinds of things that can happen. Jake is so depressed. Who gives a fuck what Jake feels?
Yeah, Jake sucks.
I want to be a stuntman. But he lets her know that the hawk brain took over. Mm. And he says, I lost control. For the last couple of days, I've been living like a hawk. All the way like a hawk. I think I was starting to forget me, starting to lose touch with humans. Then something happened, and he goes on and tells her that he spoke with this human, and he guided this human away.
Wait, so that's interesting. So they can, like, thought speak to everyone.
Everyone, yeah.
Everyone can hear the thought speak.
Yeah, you get to choose who can hear the thought speak. And he is like, I'm going to guide this human. I'll scout, and I'll tell you when to go and what to do.
Right.
And he basically did for this human what he did for Price Cut Polly.
Freed the Price Cut Polly of humans.
Because this book, it starts with him saving Price Cut Polly.
Right.
And he does the exact same thing for a human.
Right.
He recognized a weakness in them. And he saved them.
Yeah.
And he's like, but I'm still not sure if I'm human or not. I'm a bird. And he's like, I almost didn't save him. At first, I just saw another predator in his prey. No different from watching the owls at night. No different from what I do myself. Kill to eat. And then she's like, nah, the Yeerks, they're controlling people. They're slaving people. We're doing this because we have a higher calling. We have to save this world. And he's like, yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good response, though, because, you know, he's getting less and less loyalty for the human race.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, and like, she doesn't get it. Like, there's something that Rachel says here is like, well, what you did, ... eating, ... you know, whatever. Well, it's natural for a hawk. You know, I think it shows like that kind of like her not really understanding what food means. Right? Because like, I think that's just humans in general. We have such a distance from like nature in general. And not to like go all hippie on it, but like, we have a distance from what it means to, like, hunt and have that sole purpose. Like, his only purpose as a bird is to eat and, you know, get it with Lady Hawk. Mm-hmm. Right? And she just doesn't understand that. She's just kind of like, well, it's natural. It's fine. Be a bird. And, you know, if you need to do that. But for him, it's way, way more.
Yeah.
You know?
And she, again, tries to tell him that he's human.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Sometimes I just feel so trapped. I want to move my fingers, but I don't have any. I want to speak out loud, but I have a mouth that's only good for ripping and tearing.
It's a great line.
And it's like, Jesus Christ. He's like, yeah, being a human sure would be nice, but my body is only made for killing. It's like, you are so far removed from the process of how you get food, you don't understand that I am just here to kill.
You know, like, you can't hug children with nuclear arms. That kind of...
Right. And it goes, Rachel looked like she might start crying. It was alarming to me because Rachel isn't a girl who bursts out in tears ever. Anyway, look, I'm sorry I ruined your exhibition at the mall the other day. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah. Right. They talk about, like, the aftermaths of, like, you know...
He's like, yeah, it's all fine.
You know, it all worked out in the end, really.
Yeah, and she has to keep reminding him that he's not alone, that he has friends, that people care about him.
Yeah, and there's also this, like, a good realization he comes to, too, right? More than ever, I understand that, see, there are human beings all over, trapped in bodies controlled by the Yeerks. Trapped, unable to escape. Rachel, I know how they feel. maybe I can't escape, maybe I'm trapped forever, but if we can free some of those others, maybe, I don't know, maybe that's just what we need to do to stay human, right? So he gets that. I think that's his main motivation, right? Is that he understands what it's like to not have freedom.
Yeah, he knows. Go ahead.
Yeah, he knows what it's like to be placed in a situation of complete isolation and frustration, because really that's what happens to people when they get Yeerkified. Right?
Yeah, he becomes a hostage in his own body for a brain he
can't
control.
They go to the sunken place, right? And they become just as isolated.
Yeah.
Right? And like his motivation is to free everything, right? To free birds, to free humans, to set everything free.
And he directly refutes what Rachel said earlier. It's like, oh, the Andalites will fix you. And he's like, no, I may not be fixed. Right. This might be me forever, but we can save the others.
Yeah, this is what my real calling is, and I'm okay with that. It will help me remain human. Yeah, right? because like the way he goes back and talks about Price Cut Polly, not having those emotions, right? Like, she doesn't feel grateful. She's a bird.
She doesn't feel anything. She's a bird.
Well, she feels things, but like she doesn't feel those human emotions of regret or attraction or love, even really,
or the loss of who he was.
Right. Like, even like in your animal facts is like, oh yeah, when the mate dies, they just move on immediately.
Yeah.
Right? Like they don't feel that, but he does. And the more he frees people, birds, what have you, from the control of the Yeerks, the more he kind of gets his feelings back.
Yeah.
They can hang on to that one feeling of freedom and America.
And honestly, that's probably the most noble reason to fight the Yeerks, really.
Yeah, instead of it was like, I want my brother back.
Yeah.
Like, well, there's other things going on, Jake.
Yeah, where it's like, here's this guy who sacrificed himself.
Right.
And he's like, there's no hope for me.
Yeah.
But
there might be hope for others.
There might be hope for others. Right. It's like, damn, dude, that's noble depression. And so they're like, okay.
Yeah, so
we're going to go to the lake. We're going to turn into fish and fly into a spaceship and turn off its shield.
This is some of the weakest parts of the book, I think, because it goes back into wacky Yeerk hijinks.
Yeah, and they just fly to the...
Well, they go back to the ship.
They go back to the lake. They hide in a bear cave.
Yeah, because, like, again, the 2-hour deadline, they know that they need the time, right? So they go up a little bit earlier, as wolves, they climb into the bear cave, and I guess they just chill out for a bit in the bear cave?
Mm-hmm. They chill out there, they're like, man, I wish we had shoes. Can someone make fire?
Yeah, and so, like, really this is Tobias kind of doing the things that they need for, like, doesn't he bring, like, firewood or something? Or...
Yeah, he's got a little pouch with like tinder.
Right, that's right, because like
he's got a purse. They give Tobias a purse,
which is a great image because it's just like this bird flying with a bag, ferrying things back and forth into this bear cave.
But it's like, yeah, there's some tinder here to make a fire. Just a few little things.
Right, and then they go fishing because they need a bird. Mm-hmm. Right, they need a fish.
They all find out they're very bad at fishing.
Yeah.
And so they all find out they suck at fishing, except for Cassie, who's like the natural hunter animal person.
Well, because, she's one with nature and therefore is good at fishing.
Yeah.
I don't know. She doesn't have much going on, so let's give her fishing.
Yeah, she's good at fishing.
Sure.
And Tobias is just like floating around.
Yeah.
And then he sees Ladyhawk. He's
right.
Like, oh, hello. How you doing, Price Cut? Call her Polly.
No, I'm okay with Price Cut Polly. That's her name.
That is her name. Price Cut Polly.
Okay, so
Cassie catches the fish.
Yeah, they get a fish. They get a trout, I think.
Yeah.
And so they acquire the trout, and they're like, all right, we're good. They go back to the cave.
Well, the Yeerks roll in, and they're like, oh fuck, we gotta go.
Right. Okay.
The helicopters start rolling in, and they're like, oh, did they see us? But they didn't. They didn't see them.
Yeah.
But they run back to the cave. They acquire the fish.
Yeah.
Tobias is like, maybe this is not a good idea.
Right.
Maybe we are overpowered here.
Overpowered?
Well, yeah. Or maybe we're going to be overpowered here.
Yeah, like, just hold back. We'll find a better plan. Or we'll do this another day. Right? Because I think Tobias kind of, like, now that he's regained a little bit of his humanity, he just regained a little bit of his fear that he's going to lose his friends.
Right. He has something to fight for now, so he has something to lose, and he's like, hey, maybe we should take it easy.
Yeah, maybe this plan kind of sucks. But they bring up a good point. They're like, hey, they might not hit the same lake every time.
Yeah.
Right? Like
we have to do this now.
Right.
This is our plan, and it's the only plan.
True. Like they have a good point. Right, so, and they also mentioned, like, we get some little insight in Jake's leadership style, right?
Yeah.
There's a nice quote here. Jake gets peevish when somebody questions things after they've already been decided.
So, don't question Jake, because then you're the bad guy.
We already decided it. Shut up. I'm the leader.
We're going to do this plan that someone else thought of. I'm the leader. Now that I think about it, it's a good plan because it reminds me... Do you remember that salmon tube thing?
Oh, yeah. I remember the salmon tube.
They're just getting into that.
Yeah, but like this... It's different from the salmon tube. So, so here's the plan. They didn't know, like, how they were going to get in the lake because it was surrounded by Yeerks.
Yeah, and they ran off because...
human controllers.
Human controllers. So they started to show up. They ran back to the cave, acquired the fish, and like, well, what do we do?
Right. And
then they're like, well... Maybe turning into a fish is not a good idea because we won't know how to control the fish brain.
Right.
Which is something that's an established thing.
It's a problem.
Sometimes things just don't work out.
Right.
And even Tobias says, I would have laughed if it weren't so serious. I mean, come on. How many kids have to worry about all their friends becoming fish? Life had definitely gotten strange since that night when we saw the Andalite landing in the construction site.
And I'm just picturing in this movie, like, the record scratch. So you're probably wondering how I ended up here.
I'm a bird boy. My friends are turning to fish.
Yeah, so... But, like, who is it? Cassie's the one that's just like, no, we can do this. Fish can survive a little bit out of water.
Yeah.
So why don't you, Tobias, just... take us from the cave and drop us into the lake.
Well, they realize that they can't do what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because Visser 3's blade ship shows up with the ship.
Oh, does that happen before? Okay,
yeah.
So I guess Visser 3 shows up and that. Okay, so that's what really makes them nervous, right? Is having Visser 3 hanging around.
Like, we can't do this. Visser 3's here, and that's when they make the point. We have to do it. We don't know when they'll do this. They may not always come here.
Well, and also, like, now everyone's really jumpy.
Yeah.
Right? What is it? Like, so there's two goons.
There are some goons, yes.
Right, there are two goons that are on patrol, right? And so, this is when Tobias is a hawk. He's flying around.
He sees helicopters, goons coming.
Right, and he's going to go warn his friends.
Yeah.
And then the goons see a hawk. And they just fired everybody, right? Like, there's a deer, they blast the deer.
Yeah, he sees that they blast the deer. They're not taking any prisoners.
Right.
And then, like, okay, hide in the cave. Just stay in here. So Tobias is dropping them one by one, fish into the river.
Right.
Because the Yeerks aren't going to look at a red-tailed hawk carrying a fish as anything suspicious. And so a human controller and a Hork-Bajir controller come towards the cave.
Right.
And the human says, better not find anything in here, the human controller said. The Visser will do to you what was done to the poor fool yesterday who let the human escape.
Yeerk Bane?
Yeerk Bane?
Yeerk Bane, a thing that kills the Yeerk.
And then Rachel's like, what's going on? Because she's in fish form being carried. Yeerks, a human controller and a Hork-Bajir controller, right outside the cave. Going for good ver puny body, ha.
This was your sector to check out. You didn't even notice this cave. Please keep getting in my nerves, and I'll tell him.
He gruel furk you and your little calf, ha. So Hork-Bajir speak fucking rules.
Because, like, they need to talk English, they need to talk, like, humans in order to talk to the human controllers. So,
and they laugh at the end of everything. Go in for gooth ver puny body, ha.
So good.
And then the guy's like, you better shut up or I'll tell Visser 3. And the Hork-Bajir goes, he gophered you and your little calf, ha. I don't know what he's talking about, but it's amazing.
They're still getting it's hard to learn a language.
So they like Tobias makes a break for it out of the cave. And the human controller's like, yeah, in a cave. Hey, there's a bird. And he grabbed Rachel as fish form. And he He flies in right in the face, scrapes right past the human. The Hork-Bajir slashes the air with one of his wrist blades. He shaved off an inch of my tail. But he made it out. That's when they shoot at him.
Yeah.
With the Dracon beam sizzled in the air above me. But fortunately for the Hork-Bajir, it didn't stop when it buzzed. It just shot everything.
Well, that's how powerful these beams are, right? Yeah, because they're on the ground, they shoot up. It hits the vast truck ship, as they describe it.
Yeah,
right, and it makes a little hole at the bottom of the ship. So, these things are pretty powerful.
Yeah, and it was too small to amount to anything. But
it made it up.
These Dracon beams just destroy shit. They talk about shooting a deer and just vaporizing it into nothing.
Right. Tobias drops off Rachel, right? All the while, Rachel's screaming for water because she's a fish.
Yeah, she's like, I need water.
So the plan works as they intended it to, right? They become fish, the straws come down, and they just get slurped right up.
Yep, they salmon tube right up that bitch into the water ship.
Yep. And now, it doesn't switch over to their perspective. Tobias is still Tobias.
Yeah, he's like, so now maybe they can hear me. I'm gonna fly up right under the little lip of the ship and try to talk to them.
He's nervous. He doesn't want to lose his friends again.
Yeah.
Right. So we can kind of hear them rustling about in the ship, right, through their thought speak.
And he's like, they're all like, we don't know what's going on. We're swimming around.
Yep, we're fish. It seems to be some kind of big tank. It's not very deep, at least not yet. It's filling up. With these lame fish eyes, I can't see beyond the surface of the water very well. But I think there's a ceiling and maybe an opening or something. Because their plan sucks.
So they're waiting for them to fill up the ship so they can maybe go to what they think is a grate.
Yep.
And Tobias is like, this is fucking stupid. Marco says, excuse me, but does anyone else ever stop to realize that some of the things we talk about doing are totally insane? What, turning into fish so we can be carried by a hawk and let ourselves be sucked up the pipe of an alien spaceship so that we can turn into tigers and gorillas and whatever and overpower the creepy aliens, Rachel said? Is that what you mean by insane? And it's like, well, yeah, when you say it back to me, it sounds really stupid. And so Tobias is just waiting.
Yeah, he's trying. It's hard to get close to the ship because apparently it's really high up. And he's not great at cruising because he's a red-tailed hawk. Right. So it takes a lot of effort to kind of hang around there, and that's when
Visser 3 comes out of his ship.
Right.
And immediately Tobias starts thinking, I had a very bad feeling that I knew what had happened. Because he watches Visser 3 kill a Hork-Bajir.
Right, the one that shot the beam.
The doomed Hork-Bajir had told Visser 3 about the bird he had fired at. And some other controller had probably said, oh yeah, I saw a bird acting suspiciously too. And someone, no doubt, said, hey, wasn't it a bird that distracted the Hork-Bajir yesterday and let the human get away? Visser 3 had put 2 and 2 together. An animal acting unlike an animal meant just one thing to him, Andalites in Morph. I guess I should have been flattered that the Visser 3 believed we Animorphs were true Andalite warriors, but it didn't make any difference whether he thought I was an Andalite or a human. He was sending his creatures into the sky, looking for a bird that was no bird, me. And then he remembers Price Cut Polly.
Right.
They were going to kill her.
Yeah, because he's not the only red-tailed hawk in the area. It was Price Cut Polly.
No. And so he's like, okay. A helicopter comes behind him, starts shooting at him.
Well, no, he lets himself be known, right?
He flies out, and he's like, you're not going to get her.
Yeah, hey, I'm that weird hawk. Shit. And then, it turns into this weird dogfight situation.
Well, he flies up, they shoot at him, it misses, then he plops himself right on the ship.
Right, the one place they can't fire.
The one place they cannot shoot.
Right.
And he just
sits there.
He just sits there.
He knows that, I'm boned. And this is right around the time when the people inside the friends inside the ship say, hey, we're stuck.
Yeah, we're boned.
We're also boned. And so he's now felt the reversal roll, right? There's actually a good line at the end of this chapter where it's like, I landed on top of the hovering ship. I planted my talons on the hard, cold, metallic surface. It stretched in every direction around me. The surface curved down and away from me, so I couldn't even see the edges. It was as if I was standing alone on a metal moon. Over my head hovered helicopters and bug fighters. I could see human and Hork-Bajir and Taxon eyes all focused on me. I knew the look in their eyes, the look of the predator, and me, their prey.
Fucking sweet. He's like, not only does he save Price Cut Polity, but he's just staring down an entire alien army, and he's just a little bird.
I'm just picturing this sad bird on the side of a...
And it's the way Catherine Alice Applegate describes how Tobias looks, completely alone on a desolate moon. Yeah. That's how he's felt the entire book as well. Right. Which I liked that sort of...
It's a good play. And also the nice, like, now I'm the prey.
Yeah, and he's like...
This sucks being the prey.
This sucks. It was not looking good for me, he says. If I tried to fly off that ship, I would be Dracon 10 different ways before I could get away. It was an eerie scene. I stood on the vast metal plain while over my head they hovered, a swarm of deadly predators. Then things got worse, a lot worse. It floated up into my vision like a dark moon. The blade ship of Visser 3.
Visser 3 rules. Like, because Visser 3, like, what he does, he flies up there and he's like, I'm going to yell at this Andalite.
He flies up. Tobias thinks, I love this. Tobias, old buddy, I said to myself, you are not getting out of this alive. And then Visser 3 yells, Andalite. And the voice in my head made me reel. I almost took wing out of sheer fright. He had never spoken directly to me before. It was a voice of such absolute power, such utter confidence. The mere silent sound of it in your head makes you want to obey, makes you quiver in fear. It is the voice of dread, the voice of destruction. Andalite, fool, do you think you know what you are? A true bird would fly away. And he just sits there, staring at him, and Visser 3's like, give yourself up.
So, because he knows that if he talks back, then, like, it's like, hey, Andalites don't talk like that.
Yeah, it's like, I'm a kid.
No, Visser 3.
Visser 3, don't attack me, I'm just a baby boy.
Right, so he's just like, gotta be silent. And so, like, Visser 3 is just, like, flying up there yelling at this bird.
He's just like, give yourself up, Andalite. I will give you a quick and painless death as soon as you tell me where the others are.
Have it your way, Andalite. I am patient. I can wait here as long as it takes, and then you will die quickly by Dracon beam. Or perhaps, if we can snare you much more slowly here on my blade ship. Much more slowly. Like, you know, it's great.
Yeah.
And he's just having a good time.
And then he hears Rachel.
Right. Because, they are in trouble.
And he's like, Rachel's like, Tobias, we're trapped. The tank is full, but the grate won't open. Cassie and Jake have already morphed back to human, but they can't get it open. We're trapped in here. And Tobias is like, well, what can I do? And she's like, nothing. We're gonna die here.
Well, we're gonna die.
Yeah. They're like, we're gonna morph, try to bust some shit up. So Rachel says, listen to me, Tobias, we're trapped. There's no way out. The ship will take off soon. They'll find us when they get to the mothership and unload the water. Tobias, we don't want to be taken alive. My blood ran cold. My head was whirling. What are you talking about? Listen, Tobias, we can't be taken alive. Do you understand? If there's anything you can do, anything. So, Rachel, what can I do? I can't get you out of there. I know, Rachel said. We all know. But if there's some way if the ship could be destroyed, we know it's probably not possible. If there's some way.
If you could just casually, like, blow up the ship, that would be great.
Yeah. And then, probably my favorite part of this book is when Rachel Han Solos Tobias. And he's like, this can't be happening. This can't be happening. I guess Marco was right all along, Rachel said sadly. I guess it was always insane to think we could fight the Yeerks. Rachel, I never told you. You didn't have to, Tobias, she said. I knew. Goodbye.
Well, that kind of sucks for Tobias, because, like, you didn't have to tell me that you love me, Tobias. I knew.
Yeah,
that's cool, I guess. Bye.
and then she just goes quiet.
Right.
Static. And then he just thinks of her treading water, waiting to die.
Right, and so he knows that he needs to act somehow, right? Because like it's such a stalemate, and he knows that there's no way to like directly save them.
And so this badass thing kind of happens. Mm. Above me, the blade ship waited like a hawk watching a rabbit, ready to swoop down and finish me. Only I wasn't a rabbit. Visser 3 was a predator? Well, so was I. And I no longer had anything to be afraid of. If my friends were to die in the mothership, I would be lost and alone in a world where I belonged to nowhere. I had nothing to lose. The ship opens up. Mm-hmm. Taxons have landed, and they're coming for him.
Yeah, I guess they're just trying to, like, shoo him off the ship.
Like, they drop some monsters to come eat him.
Yeah.
And he knew that if he stayed, they would catch him.
Right.
If he flew, the Yeerks would shoot him.
Now, Taxons are the centipede-like monsters.
The centipede-eating monsters.
And, like, I guess they have, like, enough, like, centipede arms to, like, hold a gun. Right.
Yes.
So they're just like on the edge of the ship, like taking aim at this bird and then trying to like shoo him off.
Yeah, they circle him.
Yeah.
And Visser 3 says, "It looks as if you have run out of time." Visser 3 said in my head. He laughed. It was not a nice laugh. "Ah, Visser 3, you ruthless predator," I thought. "Very clever. You have me trapped. Trapped like a rabbit." But a trapped rabbit is one thing, and a trapped hawk. A hawk with the mind of a human being is a whole different matter. The nearest Taxon leveled a handheld Draken beam at me. He watched me with 2 of the circle of red globs they have for eyes. I pushed off with my feet. I beat the air with my wings. I flew straight for those red jello eyes.
Going to the old standby. Take some eyes.
Go for the eyes, baby. He raised one of his feeble forearms to shield his eyes. The wrong move. I trimmed a shade right, raked my talons forward, and struck like I was hitting a mouse in a field. My talons closed around the Drakon beam. The Taxon's weak grip was no match for my speed. The Drakon beam tore loose from his grip. So he tears out some eyes, steals a laser gun, and just goes ham.
Yeah, so it's a great image. Because, like, picture this hawk with a gun. And his claws just and just like shooting a laser gun at a ship. Well, like, no, he aims for the bug fighters, right?
Yeah, he blows up a bug fighter.
Right.
He shoots the bug fighter. So he starts flying with the gun.
Right.
It's weighing him down.
Right, because, like, again, he's about the same, like, weight as the gun, probably.
Yeah, the gun probably weighs more than him.
So, like, it's not even like a smoothly flying eagle. It's like a flailing eagle who's just spinning around you. It's like when MacGruber gets a gun, he's just like...
So Tobias is just blasting. He blasts a hole in the ship, in the side, like a huge hole in the side of the ship.
Right.
A helicopter crashes into the ship, making that hole even bigger. And Tobias is just going fucking ham with the gun.
Seer! Seer! Pew, 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 seer! And like, so the real damage is the bug fighters hitting the truck.
Yeah, the bug fighters hitting the water ship.
So it kind of like cascades into eventually bringing down the truck ship, right?
Yeah,
like, that's the thing that gets it.
The side blows open, water's pouring out.
Right.
He sees his friends pouring out with the water.
Right.
His hawk eyes, he can see his friends popping out and, I guess, turning into birds and flying away.
They're trying to, but like, they barely make it.
Yeah, but they fly away.
Yeah.
And that's when we get to... I mean, they're shooting at him. I just fucking...
Wait, hold on.
There's this little bit. Then with one sharp talon, I pulled the trigger on the Draken beam. Fry, you worms! There was no recoil, not like a regular gun at all. A beam of intense red light lanced from me to the bridge. It burned a hole through the window, sliced through the fat Taxon, and began slicing up control panels and instruments like a hot knife going through butter. I squeezed that trigger for as long as I could.
And there's a lot of, like, onomatopoeia, like, karunch, ba-boom.
Yeah, he's basically pulling the trigger until he becomes exhausted.
Right.
His friends come out of it, and they fall, fully human. They fell, but as they fell, they began to change. Cassie was the first. Feathers sprouted from her skin, so they're turning into birds.
Yeah, and we get some, like, other, like, bird facts. They all have, like, a bird morph that they change into. They barely make it. And
they're like, yeah, we made it. We did it. One by one, they all said they're okay. But the explosion of the crashing ship had disturbed every animal in the forest. The birds had all either hidden or flown away during the earlier fighting. Those few birds still left now took wing, startled. I saw her take off, the hawk. She was scared and wanted to run to the sky. But the sky was not a sanctuary for her. I don't know which ship fired the Dracon beam, whether it was the one bug fighters or the blade ship. You see, they'd had a good long look at me, and she looked just like me. The Dracon beam sizzled. It burned off a wing, and then she fell to Earth, never to fly again.
Right, so Prescott Polly suffered a... For one, didn't look exactly like Tobias.
No, she's a third larger.
Right.
And those dumb Yerks couldn't see that.
Dumb Yerks. Prescott Polly died.
Then they just...
Wings sizzled off, and she just spiraled down to her death.
And then they cut to some time in the future. They get away.
Right, yeah, like they have an escape, and they have to go home, right?
And so Tobias goes to Rachel.
Yeah.
And Rachel's like, we think we're going to go up there. We're gonna bury Polly. And Tobias is like, no, don't do that. And she's like, why? She saved us. Like, you cared about her. So Tobias says, I knew I was human when I realized how sad I was that she was killed. See, a hawk wouldn't care. If she had been my mate, I would have missed her, been disturbed. But sadness, it's a human emotion. I know it seems strange, but I guess only a human would really care that a bird had died. If you helped us look, maybe we could find her body. No, her body will be eaten by a raccoon or a wolf or another bird. Maybe even another hawk. That's the way it is. That's the way it is for wild animals, Tobias, not humans. Yeah, I know. That's how I know that you're wrong, Rachel. At least partly. I am a human, yes. But I'm also a hawk. I'm a predator who kills for food. And I'm also a human being who grieves over death. She looked terribly sad. She's very human, my friend Rachel. I went to the window. It was a beautiful day outside. The sun was bright. The cumulus clouds advertised the thermals that would carry me effortlessly to the sky. I flew. I'm Tobias, a boy, a hawk. Some strange mix of the two. You know now why I can't tell you my last name or where I live, but someday you may look up in the sky and see the silhouette of a large bird of prey. Some large bird with a rending beak and sharp, tearing talons. Some bird with vast wings outstretched to ride the thermals. Be happy for me and for all who fly free.
And that's the end of the book.
That's the end.
Right, so...
He comes to terms with being a bird and a boy.
Yeah, and he's given up on some humanity.
He has, but he's held on to the parts that matter.
Right. He could also just tell you his last name at this point.
Yeah.
There's no reason to have a secret identity.
It's just...
He's just a bird now.
That bird just absolutely going nuts with a laser gun. That's what I love.
That's where it should have ended.
It's...
Sear!
That was...
That was book 3, the Encounter.
The Encounter.
Did you like this book?
I loved this book.
It's
like,
the imagery in this book, and I think the allegory of depression and isolation was powerful.
Yeah, especially if kids are going to read this.
Right.
They might not know that's what it's about.
Right.
But they'll know it's about more than...
They'll know it's about, like, sadness. They'll know it's about, like, those kind of boiled down, childish versions of depression, right? It's like, oh, I feel sad and lonely and bored,
right.
I think. Like, boredom is kind of one of those things that kind of gets mixed into it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you liked it.
I liked it a lot. And it's a well-written story about a topic that matters. And they don't really lean into the sci-fi shit. It augments the story. It propels it forward.
It ends with an eagle and a laser. Well, it ends with a red-tailed hawk and a laser.
Yeah.
It has some sci-fi shit.
It does. But the cleanup chapter afterwards is more about, he's like, I accept who I am now.
Right.
I have a reason to be human, a reason to be in.
And that's kind of the cool thing about the ending of this book, is that it's not like, I fixed it.
No.
He's right? No, it's more of like coming to terms with his feelings and who he is and realizing that's just a part of his life now.
Yeah, and he's always going to be depressed.
He's always going to be
hungry
for rat.
He's always going to feel outside of other people, out of his friends.
Right.
He even says, she's very human, my friend Rachel.
Right.
So he's now created a distance between them.
Right, but he's no longer human. He's a weird mix of the two.
Yeah.
He's Blade, but in bird form.
He's a bird walker? Get you fuckers at a bad time.
No, it's a red-tailed hawk. It's here.
Oh, God, I want a red-tailed hawk with a laser tattoo so bad.
Well, I mean, I told you that, like, when we finish this, I'll get it. Why not?
We both will.
It'll be cool. Like, it will have, like, a laser that'll go around the arm or something.
It's... Oh, God. Tobias, you did damn good.
Yeah. Next up is Cassie.
Yep. Next up is Cassie.
It's going to be less good.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know anything about Cassie.
So this is a masterful book.
I was excited for this book because I want to know more about Tobias. He's always been the most interesting character. I think he will always be the most interesting character.
Probably.
And I like Animorphs.
You're coming around to liking it?
No, of course. I've always liked it. I even liked the first book, which was the weakest of the three so far.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Anytime Jake's involved, it's just...
Right.
I'm peevish and plans don't go like we've decided.
Jake sucks.
I hate Jake.
All right, so I guess we'll end with the moral of the story.
Talk to people, man.
Yeah.
Go out there. Don't let your depression...
Don't let it control you and then run into a mall.
So let's end this.
Yeah.
I'm Tyler.
Yeah. What's your Twitter handle?
That's Nate. Oh, my Twitter handle is @UFurfwo, UFIRVWO.
Okay.
You're Nate.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Batenoid, BATENOYD.
And
and
I know that we usually will end this by saying like, all cops are yerks.
All cops are yerks.
That kind of stuff. But to end this on a note like that, I don't think we'd be doing any justice to the lost.
Okay.
You know who I mean.
Price Cut Polly.
Price Cut Polly. I miss her.
Price Cut Polly.
I miss her.
1998 to 1998.
Without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I